All right, here we go. Adam22 from No Jumper.
Vlad, how you doing?
Welcome back.
Nice to be back.
Yeah, it's been what, maybe a year?
Probably about a year, yeah.
About a year. I did your show recently.
Very true.
You guys can go check it out.
Check that out. That's a good one.
Did like a 1 hour interview.
People always hit me up, oh, I can't believe Vlad showed his face. I'm like, I could think of like 15 other interviews that he did where he showed his face, but all right.
like I'm somehow the Wizard of Oz. No one knows who I am.
They never did their Googles, I guess.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, man. Well, welcome back. And congrats on your success.
Appreciate it.
I've watched you elevate.
Thank you.
Year after year. How many subscribers do you have now?
3.1 million.
Ah, okay. We're close. I think I'm about 3.6.
Man.
Yeah, you might surpass me pretty soon.
You are a wizard of YouTube. You are. People, when they ask me how Vlad does so good, I'm like, the man's a title god. He knows what he's doing.
Title god.
Title god.
The god of titles.
It's an underrated skill.
Yeah, and I also put out a lot.
This is true. The work ethic at the end of the day, that's everything, you know?
I think I outpost everybody. We put out as many as 8 videos a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you keep putting out quality content. And I think what's interesting is that a lot of people, they criticize VladTV and they say, well, you know, we shouldn't support VladTV. We should start our own and do our own thing. And you're an example of someone that started their own, who basically started from scratch, started a YouTube channel with 0 subscribers, and built it up year after year. Now you have almost as many subscribers as I do, and get a lot of big guests. Well, who are some of the biggest guests in the past year or so?
I mean, we just had KSI on, who won the Logan Paul fight. So, like, from our world, being like YouTube and rap specific, you know, he touches both. So that was a huge one. I mean, obviously getting the Young Thug one was gigantic for us.
That was a big one.
Had to run around backstage in England to get that. Dame Dash, who I now do podcasts with all the time, that was like a huge one at the time. So, I mean, sometimes you don't know which ones are going to explode, and sometimes it's just the obvious ones. But, you know, just every day just fighting to get the good ones.
Oh, yeah. Well, you mentioned Dame Dash. You actually paid Dame Dash.
I did.
For the interview. How much was it?
Typically a no-no in our line of work, but I got the email back saying he wanted $500 to pay for his haircut and his driver, which is obviously kind of funny because he has no hair. Well, at least he shaves what hair he does have.
Right.
And I don't know who drove him, but yeah, I mean, just to get my foot in the door, they wanted the $500. I was like, all right, let's do the $500.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You know,
you can make that back.
I mean, Dame Dash is just such a fascinating character to me that I was willing to do whatever to get in his situation there.
Yeah, I've interviewed Dame Dash before. We hung out a couple of times and it didn't end too well.
I'm not that surprised. Yeah, every time I hang out with him, it's kind of like teetering that might be the case.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. Hanging out with Dame a couple of times. Well, number one, he doesn't let you talk at all.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem.
It's so weird. I've never met anyone that has a conversation with you, but he doesn't actually let you talk. He'll just keep talking, and he'll talk over you.
Yeah.
And he'll just keep talking the whole time for like an hour straight.
Yeah, it can be really challenging. Like I did a podcast with him last night, and we were talking about politics, and he just straight up at one point was like, I can tell that you do not pay attention to this shit. I'm gonna ask you to stop talking. And I'm like, I didn't feel like in that moment I had said anything too crazy, but like me doing the podcast with him, I feel like I'm like slowly working towards a place where we might have a better rapport, but you know, it's an uphill battle.
Hey man, if you could do it, more power to you.
Yeah.
At one point I just said, not my thing.
Yeah.
Not my thing. I like to spend my time with people who I feel that there's a level of mutual respect.
Right.
And I feel with Dame, I didn't really get that.
Yeah.
So I said, I know I can make money off this. I know that when I interviewed him, it got a lot of views. He also interviewed me and it got a lot of views.
Oh, really?
But it just, at one point I just said, it's not worth it. I'm cool. And we just walked our separate ways. He's kind of had some interesting things happen along the way.
Yep.
Did you see the deposition
I did.
audio, a video actually?
Yeah. That was incredible.
Was it?
I mean, incredible performance art at the very least.
Well, he called the opposing lawyer a culture vulture.
I know, and I was thinking, I'm like, I wonder if that's ever happened in a deposition before.
Right. Was he is he a vulture in the lawyer culture?
Right.
Like, what is he vulturing? Is he like...
You know, he explained it to me last night, but I feel like I would not do a good job reiterating what exactly he was referring to. He had like a movie stolen from him, which is like the whole thing that he's upset about. And I feel like people don't even realize what that situation was about based on what he said last night, at least.
Okay.
It's a lot.
The thing with Dame is that he's an interesting figure. And you want to work with him. And you want to do projects with him until you actually start doing projects with him. And then you realize he's like his own worst enemy. Because all this stuff that's happening with him, I feel like shouldn't be happening with him. He could have been doing a lot more business with a lot more people because people want to work with him.
Right.
I wanted to work with him. But then once you start working with him, you're like, I'm not going to just sit here and just put up with this nonsense.
Right.
So you end up just not working with him. And he ends up losing out on money as well as we do. And it's a no-win situation. And I feel like Dame just shoots himself in the foot.
Yeah, like if you really look at his situation, I mean, he's making his content, he has his own little world, but he claims that he like refuses to work with anybody in a larger system with labels or bigger companies or whatever. But in reality, like anyone who's kind of dealt with him knows that he just doesn't seem like he would be able to work with other people in that kind of way at all.
Does not play well with others. You know, the kid in the school that you come home and he's off in the other room away from the other kids because he hit someone with like a lunchbox or something because they wanted to share like his cookies and it all went bad. That's Dame.
I mean, Dame told me he had more money than his teachers or his principal at 15 off of selling drugs. So
Possibly.
I feel like he might have been socialized from a very early age to not have to ever listen to anybody. And maybe he just had that personality in the first place. But yeah, he just doesn't seem like he really like has ever had to deal with anybody, which I feel like kind of dictates a lot of people's personalities. Like if you have to go work in an office for 10 years, I feel like you learn a lot about how to just like maintain and deal with people. And I never really had that. Like always just basically was running my own thing. So figuring out how to be a manager, how to actually deal with people has kind of always been a challenge.
Well, I think that when you have Jay-Z on your team, you could tell everyone to go fuck themselves and they will continue to work with you because you're the key to Jay-Z, who even back then people knew that he was going to be one of the greats. He was going multi-platinum. Rockefeller was built around him, everything else like that. And once you no longer have Jay-Z, then that's when you see the chinks in the armor and everything else like that. Everyone's like, well, why should I continue doing this when you don't have Jay-Z anymore? Because you don't. Jay-Z doesn't seem to associate with him. I've never even seen a picture of them together in the last like 10 years.
No, they broke up like 2001 or some shit and you ain't seen them together since.
Right. I think Jay probably just got tired of it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, come on. Like putting out Dame's fighters over and over again was like, okay, well, what am I doing here?
I mean, Jay stopped fucking with Dame around the same time that Jay sort of transitioned from being more of like a straight gangster rapper to all of a sudden he started dressing nicer. He kind of started putting out different content, presenting himself as somebody who was a bit more lofty and, you know, concerned with bigger things and stuff. And like part of that whole transition was kind of like, oh, these dudes that I came up with, nah, I ain't really fucking with them anymore like that.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Hold on. Let me pull this up right. I remember, I think it was the song Lost Ones, where Dame said, dudes are saying they made Hove. All right, then make another Hove.
Right.
Well, apparently Dame is taking him up on the offer because he's now the lead singer of a band called Billy Pablo and the Guns.
Right. He was playing me some of that last night, yeah.
I support older artists continuing in their craft and building and doing music and everything else like that. But 99% of the time, that artist has already established themselves when they were younger and just continue to do music as they get older. Starting your music career at 48 is a bit odd.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I've seen him performing with his band, like in his warehouse space or his studio space that he has and stuff, it feels like he's really just doing that because he just likes the actual feeling of getting up there and just sort of howling and just letting it all out. So I'm not sure that he necessarily is thinking of it as something that might have commercial success at all. I feel like he's just sort of He seems like he really loves that shit. Like anytime I've ever talked about rap music, he usually turns it around on me and starts talking about rock music. Like usually as in, why don't you like rock music more as a white person? But he seems genuinely passionate about that shit.
You never know in this world. It may blow up. Maybe he'll become bigger than Jay-Z. Imagine that. Imagine Dame Dash becomes bigger than Jay-Z with his band.
I can see it.
That would be like the ultimate fuck you, Jay.
Yeah, that would be good. Maybe Jay come back.
Take that.
Be like, yo, now we need you.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me sign you to Rockefeller. Rock Nation.
Could happen. Rock. From the rock to the
Oh,
rock.
man.
There you go.
Well, I have no problems paying for interviews. I've paid for interviews before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've paid in the thousands
wow.
before. Not the tens of thousands, but in the thousands.
Interesting.
And usually it's like older people who have a very specific story that they haven't told before.
Okay, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? Where it's like, they're not really going to tell this unless someone pays.
Right.
And sometimes I'm the only person that actually has the outlet to put it out properly. So there's not too many other people that will pay except for me.
That's interesting.
So I have paid for interviews. I don't have a problem paying for interviews. I don't pay for every interview, nor will I. And some people have a problem with that, saying, "Oh, you should never pay for interviews. Like journalistically, this is wrong." And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a whole new set of rules with how things work these days.
Right.
If I have to pay for an interview, because a lot of times it's like, okay, either pay for it or you're just not going to get it. Period. The end. So I'm down to do that. But yeah, $1 million, you will never make that back.
It's kind of a weird situation because most of the people that I would be willing to pay for them to do an interview with me absolutely don't need the money,
right,
or wouldn't care. But then you have like a certain specific type of person who might really need a couple $1,000, but they're not gonna, like, they don't really have much to gain from it, you know, like or maybe they do, but they don't think of it that way. Like, you know, the Young Thug interview, it's like, would I have been able to offer him a couple $1,000 to get the interview? No, he would have laughed in my face it never would have happened like that.
Right.
But there are situations, like people who are involved with shit back in the day in particular, I can see that.
Right. I mean, sometimes it's criminal figures. Not to say that we pay everyone, but we have paid one or two people over the time. Like I said, it's usually older people,
right? Yeah.
Who's not really making a lot of income at the time, and they have a story that they're trying to hold on to.
This is the thing too. Lil Reese, if you pay him $10,000 to do an interview, he's gonna come and do the interview, and you're gonna try to ask him something about him getting shot, and he's not gonna say shit.
He's gonna say no comment.
You know, like if Lil Reese wanted to do an interview where he said, "I'm not in the streets anymore. Let me tell you every single crazy thing I ever did in the streets," which is still not a good idea, even if he forsaked his old life. But I mean, if he was willing to do that, it would be like the craziest, most fascinating interview. I'm sure that if he were to like bare his soul, he could tell us stuff that would be mind-blowing. But he's not going to do that because he doesn't want to go to jail, and he's smart. And also that would be disrespectful to everybody ever did shit in the street with or whatever. So it's just not going to happen. Like, if he gives you that interview and you pay him, he's still going to keep his mouth shut about everything that it's advantageous to him to keep his mouth shut about.
Yeah, and I'm a Lil Reese fan. I thought Us and Traffic were great songs. But when it comes to someone like a Reese, it's always like, man, you have this incredible opportunity to do this legitimate thing with your life. You have actual fans. People want to book you for shows. You have artists that want to do features with you for free. Labels that want to put out your stuff. But you out here beefing with everyone nonstop since you came out. And you have all these incidents that happen between him getting jumped and now him getting shot. And he's beefing with people right now. You have staples in your neck and you're sitting there. You got to that state from beefing with people. You recover, and the first thing you do is start beefing with people. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
if you think, sorry to interrupt you, but if there's ever a time for you to say, hey, maybe I need to change my life around and approach things differently, it would be right now. But with Reese, it's not happening, it seems.
Yeah, I've never spent time around him in person. I was actually supposed to interview him over the summer in Chicago, but he didn't end up showing up. Like, I was,
There you go.
I was at this like tattoo shop that we had actually got them to agree to let us film interviews in the back of the tattoo shop, and I was supposed to do him and Duck in the same day, and we had security, and the security was off-duty cops, and I remember explaining to the off-duty cop, the security guard guy, I was like, I got these two different rappers, and they basically don't want anything to do with each other. If they see each other, it might be an issue. So if there's any sort of even close thing with them coming near each other when someone's exiting and someone else is showing up, we got to be super on top of that. And I remember he kind of like laughed because he's from Chicago, and I'm like, what? He's like, these motherfuckers been in the same city as each other for like however many years, and they ain't killed each other yet. You really think they're gonna do it here in the middle of downtown Chicago? I'm like, listen, I don't know, but I need you to be here to make sure that that doesn't happen. I don't know if the reason why neither of those interviews happened the same day was because they kind of got spooked about the fact that they knew that maybe the other one was going to be there. So I don't really know. It would have, but I mean, that to me would have been a fucking incredible interview to get Reese in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I've done FBG Duck before a couple times. Cool guy. I've never done Reese ever. I would like to do Reese. He still has an open invitation, and I could even throw him a few dollars. I'll throw him a few grand. I'm not going to throw him 10,000. I'm not going to throw him $1 million. But I'll throw him a few dollars, and it'll be a dope-ass interview. And it'll be a way for you to actually communicate with people and let people know what's really going on with you and get to, people to know you a little more than just what you put out in your music.
The thing about Reese is I would love to know what a day in his life is like. Like, I would love to know what the craziest shit that's happened to him in the past, besides getting shot, in the past couple months. Like, I would really like to know what his life is like and what his life is all about. The thing is I'm just assuming that he's probably not going to tell you too much in his interview about what because it's kind of a fascinating situation. You're saying like he could be more in the industry and he's really chosen to not do that. I want to know what he is doing in an average day.
Well, I'll just leave it at this, and we'll get off the topic. I remember when I first interviewed Young Chop, and I actually was hanging out with him in Chicago, went to his parents' house and hung out there, and we were just talking. And I remember I mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, and I want to get Lil Reese. He's like, all right, hold on, let me call him up. And he called him up, and he was like, no, he's in the streets. I can't even talk to him at this point. But Chop said something very interesting. He said, and this is when like Chief Keef was really popping and Lil Durk was first coming out and all those guys were really starting to really build up a buzz. He said, Lil Reese is the most talented one out of the bunch, but he's just in the streets all the time.
Damn.
He's the most talented one. That's what Chop said, who was the main producer of that whole era. So there you go. It's just disappointing to me.
Yeah, I hear you. I hope he's all right. I hope his voice is all right, because I know that he said he did a song where his voice sounds all raspy and fucked up because he got shot or whatever, and like, I hope that shit fixes itself up.
Well, you mentioned that you paid Dame Dash $500 for the interview. Recently, the whole topic of paying for interviews came up.
Right.
In my arena, and you actually, put in your 2 cents on it. Lil Reese, who recently got shot,
Right.
really badly, shot in the neck. At one point, he was in critical condition. We were really waiting around wondering if he's going to make it or not.
For real, yeah.
He ultimately made it, and he was on Twitter, and someone said, oh, you should do an interview with Vlad. And he was like, oh, he needs to pay me $1 million. Because my shit is real. So I responded. I said, well, number one, I'm happy. Very happy that you pulled through, but nobody's going to give you even 1% of $1 million for an interview, which is $10,000.
Right.
Some people were actually asking, what's 1% of 10? I'm in the comments like, really, motherfucker? You have a calendar on your phone.
Ask Google before you ask the comments. If you ever have a question like that, like hit Google before you type the same exact thing into the comments. That's always my advice.
What's actually funny about Lil Reese that I haven't mentioned before was that he reached out to me. He actually deleted the DM, so I can't show you, even though I don't really show private DMs anyway, so I wouldn't do it regardless. But he DM'd me, and he was like, I want to do an interview with you. I'm like, all right, cool. When do you want to do it? Well, it has to come out on my YouTube channel. So I said, well, if you want to pay for the cameraman and the editing, if you want me to conduct it, I'll do it for you. But I'm not going to pay for a cameraman and use my studios and film it and edit it for you, and then have you put it out on your YouTube channel, where I make zero money.
Yeah.
And then that was pretty much the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
So when I responded to him, it was a little bit based on our previous conversations.
Right.
People don't know that part.
Right.
But it was based on us like, okay, we're not really going to do interviews. You're just talking and I'm just talking, so we're just putting it out there. What do you think about that whole back and forth?
I mean, I wish that there were enough economic incentives that I could pay Lil Reese $1 million or $10,000 for an interview, you know? In reality, when we do this content, more often than not, you might make a couple $1,000s, that kind of stuff. And even Lil Reese has a big interview, but I really couldn't justify paying him $10,000 because I'm never going to make that much off of it unless we get some crazy sponsorship for the interview. And it's not really the kind of content that a brand would necessarily want to sponsor.
It's not advertiser friendly.
I wouldn't think that brands would be dying to be associated with the video that has a bunch of stuff about like shooting in the title. Like, I love Reese and I would definitely want to do that interview. I mean, sometimes you deal with this quite often where I'll have rappers. I remember Young Gleesha at one point wanted to be filmed, or was it Wretch? Fuck, I can't remember. But either way, they wanted to be filmed like sort of coming in on a helicopter to the store. And I was like, well, if you want to pay, you know, whatever it costs to film yourself in a helicopter and then just give me the footage and then I'll put that footage before your interview, all right. Like, people are always trying to think of something to do to make it special, like him wanting to put it on his YouTube channel instead of yours. And it's just like, usually there's not enough of a budget to justify doing something way out of the norm. Like, we're making content that makes sense economically right now. And if you were to add much to it, it wouldn't make sense anymore.
Well, I've interviewed DLC.
We were talking about that the other day in relation to this, yeah.
Yeah. And DLC told the story about him just being an alcoholic, and he was drunk one night, and he passed out and crashed into a tree, went through the windshield, tore his whole neck up. I think all the teeth there was teeth in the tree, and it was like crazy. And never recovered from that.
Yeah.
His voice, when you listen to our interview, is extremely raspy. He was able to find, have a career as a writer after that. And he even tried to come out with an album at one point that no one really, unfortunately no one checked for, because it's just not the DOC that everyone loved. But that was it. That was it for his rapping career. One bad decision and his voice just never came back. When you're a vocalist, it's a big deal.
Yeah. That shit is crazy. Yeah, DOC probably got to be the worst example of that. I'm assuming that Reese, even if his voice changes, it ain't going to be like that. We all take it for granted that, I mean, you think about every rapper smoking so much weed, not every rapper, but a lot of rappers, like, they're really doing what they can to push their fucking throat and their vocal cords to the limit.
Yeah, man, I think about that when I smoke weed.
Yeah.
I use my voice for a living too, so I can relate in that.
Yeah.
Well, you're actually on the cover of Penthouse.
Whew, yep. That was crazy.
How did that come together?
I mean, it's something that happens with like these modern media companies where it's like they might have used to have dozens of employees and now like they seem like they have like smaller staffs, and like somebody from the Penthouse staff just happened to be a big fan of me and my girl, and he just hit me up and he was like, this is what we want to do. We want to interview you guys. We want to put you on the cover. And I mean, I spent my entire life like obsessed with the media, just buying XXL and BMX magazines, skate magazines, video game magazines, comic book magazines, all this shit my whole life. And it occurred to me when they offered the cover that after all that time being obsessed with magazines, that I never once thought about being on the cover of one, because I was always into BMX, but I was never going to be a pro. I'm always into hip hop, but I was never, they don't put podcasters on the cover of a magazine, and even that's like a new thing. I never even occurred to me. And so it was such a bizarre thing to finally be on the cover of a magazine, just sort of standing there.
Well, it's not like you and your girlfriend are far removed from the Penthouse aesthetic.
No, we're not.
With her being what would you really call her profession?
I know, it's weird because everybody's like, oh, she's a porn star, and in that, they think that she's getting piped by all these other dudes, when in reality, we've been together for 3 years and she only had sex with me. So, or besides girls that she hooks up with or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, me through dating her, I just like slowly got more and more comfortable doing stuff on Snapchat or doing stuff for her cam site thing or whatever. I refer to her as a cam girl because there's a lot of like applicable things you could say, like, and in the porn star world, like the porn stars don't like when someone like my girl says, oh, I'm not a porn star, because to them it's like, you should own being a porn star. You shouldn't be ashamed of having that title associated with you, even though to a lot of people, porn star really kind of like constitutes that you're like running around the city filming scenes with different dudes all the time, which my girl's not. So it's kind of a fine line there.
Well, she's done a couple of videos with you that they were never commercially released, but they made their way to...
Yeah, they make their way to, Pornhub, whatever.
Right. And we talked about this last time. You guys were offered a porn deal, but you turned it down.
Actually, we ended up accepting it. It's just not out yet.
Oh. Is this the exclusive right here?
This is an exclusive.
So you and your girlfriend, Lena or Lena?
Lena.
Lena the Plug, have an adult film by one of the big porn companies, like Vivid.
I can't say.
Can't say.
A bigger brand that everybody's familiar
bigger
with,
brand. They filmed a professional porn scene between you two. Was there other girls also?
No.
Just you two?
Us, yeah.
And the whole tape's going to be just you two?
Yeah. There's a script, like a
script.
storyline, a plot, all that shit, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to give away too much because I want it to be a little bit of a surprise, but yeah, we definitely did it. I'm not going to reveal the plot.
Right, because the plot is so important in porn movies.
It is, for me, I guess. No, I've never paid attention to one before in my life, so it's kind of weird having to film one.
Exactly. Can you say how much you got paid?
I can't say. We ended up, I think I said 100,000 last time. We ended up, it was kind of an issue where we could have signed a bigger deal with a whack company, or we could have signed a bit smaller deal with a respectable company that we actually wanted to be involved with. So we ended up sort of sacrificing a little bit of it for assuming that there would be some degree of trust or whatever with working with a brand that we have a little bit of history with and stuff.
Right, back end money.
That too.
Right. Because the Kim Kardashian tape continued to make money to this day. Yeah, you work with the right company, they'll keep getting paid.
That's true.
Okay, so you filmed this video, and it's coming out when?
I don't know. Probably within the next couple of months.
Okay.
Hopefully they don't wait too long, because that could be weird. I'm trying to lose weight right now, so if I got like a fat guy sex tape coming out, I probably weighed like 10 pounds more in the sex tape than I do right now, so that's already not ideal in my mind.
How do you feel about it after the fact?
Well, I didn't have any problems staying hard, which was good, because, man, they were telling me horror stories about dudes who basically, like, there'll be a whole set, they rent a huge condo, they have, multiple girls, blah, 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 and then the dude can't get hard, and they end up wasting a shitload of money. So I didn't have any problems like that, thank God, which is something I started to kind of worry about. But, it's kind of, it's like you're having sex, but you're doing a bunch of stuff that is sort of not fun at all. Like you're having sex in weird positions that don't feel good, and you're sort of like, you're having sex, but you're also like holding a weird stretch. And like, you don't think about your hands. Like you're very used to having sex and like being able to sort of plant both hands down. Well, when there's a camera right here, you got to sort of like have one hand out, and like you just all these weird positions and stuff. And like, basically like the cum shot, it sat on her face for a while, and so like kind of got into her eye and like crept in there while they were getting all the shots and stuff, so I felt kind of bad for her at that. Like she ended it like sort of pissed off because she had a little bit of stuff in her eye too much.
The risks of adult film.
And it's like
it's a dangerous game.
My life has changed because now she just books me for threesomes and stuff. Like she has me booked to fuck these other two girls tonight. It's just in my calendar. Like I had to
for her
OnlyFans or her private Snapchat, whatever it is.
Okay. Yeah. So she does OnlyFans and private Snapchat.
Yeah, primarily.
And you actually have sex in some of these.
Yeah.
With other girls.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Does she make more money than you?
Well, she definitely has less expenses than me since I have a whole bunch of employees and stuff. The truth is that it's in the same ballpark, for sure.
Okay.
But I have X amount of dollars I got to spend because I have like 7 employees or some shit. So for her, it's really like she does have an assistant, and like sometimes she might have to pay somebody to edit for the most part, but she's really kind of holding it down herself for the most part. So, but she definitely does. I mean, I won't even speak about her. I know a bunch of girls who make 6 figures a month from OnlyFans or Private Snap or whatever, and in some cases, multiple 6 figures a month.
Has she made 6 figures a month?
Yeah.
Wow. So amazing that these businesses could just pop up because of technology.
Yeah.
Which 10 years ago, this would have been an absolute impossibility. Mm-hmm. Trying to create your own website and get people to subscribe and all that. But now with like OnlyFans and Snapchat Premium, and I'm not completely familiar, so I'm just kind of winging it here, but it seems like it creates a whole new commerce.
Right.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, and there's examples of people that you could just, like, they're pretty open about how much they make and stuff. I just had this girl, Jem Wolfe, on the podcast. She has a private Snapchat, or OnlyFans, actually, I believe, where she doesn't even get naked. And she's the Australian girl who plays basketball, and it's, like, on World Star poster all the time. She just got a big ass. She's got a couple thousand. I think she has 10,000 plus, like 10, 20,000 people paying $10 a month on her OnlyFans. So, you know, she's not even naked. She mostly has a following because World Star shouted her out a bunch of times. She's actually a super cool girl. I interviewed her recently. But yeah, you know, right there. Like, you don't even, she didn't have to say it. You do the math, you're like, oh yeah, she's making a couple $100,000 a month. $100,000 at least.
Nice.
As a YouTuber, I'm looking at that like, wow, y'all got it figured out.
Would you ever be okay with your girlfriend doing a scene with a guy?
I don't think so.
Nah, not your thing?
Really. And it's weird too, because it's like, I know so many of these porn dudes, and I know that like they're fucking all kinds of porn stars all the time, and it's like nothing to them. And my girl's friends with some of these guys, like we've all hung out together and stuff. But yeah, that would be a weird line to cross. Even though in a weird way, like I know a lot of these guys like well enough that it doesn't seem like it would be that big a deal, but just the principle of it would really make me not want to do it.
Principalities involved here.
You know? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when you're in the like sex porn star world long enough, a lot of shit that probably seemed like a big deal before just really starts to seem meaningless over time.
Well, I can tell you, I used to interview a lot of porn stars. I stopped a few years ago, and for anyone
found the Lord?
No. Didn't find the Lord. I'm an atheist like you.
Okay.
But for everyone who has been approaching us to do porn star interviews, I pass the torch to you.
I appreciate that.
So all the porn stars and everyone of that ilk could go to No Jumper, do an interview there. It'll be a great interview. We'll get a lot of views.
We'll take care of you.
And you know, we'll just have our catalog of people in the past, and it'll be it.
There it goes.
Trippie Redd. Remember you interviewed him, and you asked him about Tekashi, and he poured water on you.
Right.
What's the state of affairs with your rainbow-haired friend that you haven't publicly beefed with in quite some time? That's not allowed? Oh, God damn it.
So, I'm actually surprised you left it in. Me personally, I would have cut that out.
Really?
Yeah.
It was a weird situation because I had been, like, we had talked about that before. Like, I had said, I'm like, so what if I say something super offensive? You want to, like, you're going to dump a drink on my head or some shit? Like, I had said it as, like, a joke. And as soon as he heard it, he just sort of seized it. Because I had done a skit with Fat Boy a couple weeks before or something, where Fat Boy dumped a whole fucking cup of soda on my head. And, like, I bought the soda for him to do this. And then Trippie, like, as soon as I suggested it, it was kind of like he had it in his head, and he was thinking about it the whole time. And then I finally asked a 6ix9ine question, and then he did it. And it was weird because I felt like he looked like a dick, you know? Like, I didn't feel like I looked like a dick. And it was also like, I'm not going to do anything, you know? I'm not going to jump out of my chair. People always are like, oh, so-and-so said this to you in an interview. Why didn't you fucking fight him or whatever? I'm like, I'm not fighting anybody in an interview.
Right.
Anything that they could ever say or do is not going to make me swing on a guest, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. Trippie doing that, I guess I rolled with it because you know, I wasn't that upset about it. It made more sense to me in the context, but then I saw how people viewed it outside of them knowing that we had joked about it right before it happened. And I definitely understood how they thought it was a very strange move.
Well, since that time, Tekashi has been locked up.
Oh, you don't say.
And he told on everybody. And you did Tekashi's first ever interview?
That's true, yeah.
And they're saying he's going to get out before Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Yep. I did the interview with Sarah Molina.
Yeah.
Where she read the guilty plea paperwork. I remember she went on your show and said that I set her up and she regrets it and everything else like that. But they actually provided that paperwork for us.
Yeah. I mean,
people are going to try to create their own narrative.
Some people ain't ready for all the Vlad, for Vlad and all that comes with Vlad, you know?
Yeah, people think it's just, it's a regular podcast. I'll get a couple thousand views and I'll go about my day. No.
No, he's going to ask you the shit that people really want to know, yeah.
And it's going to go viral and millions of people are going to watch it.
I remember the day that I was scrolling through my subscription tab and I just saw her and I just started fucking dying. Just the idea of her on Vlad. I couldn't believe it. I was dying laughing before I even clicked play.
Well, you know Tekashi a little better than I do. Mm-hmm. Like, I've never interviewed him. I ran into him one time at a club in LA, and
really?
we spoke for like 30 seconds, and that was it. We talked about doing an interview. It never happened, obviously. Are you surprised with him telling on everybody?
I guess no, because I always saw him as somebody who, and before he even started telling or before the Fed case, I remember saying, this guy is a dude who is going to do anything to make it. You know, and I saw that in examples of him when he used to wear the HIV shirts. Like, he went viral back in the day for wearing some shirt that said HIV on it. I think, didn't he have a shirt that said like bitch ass N-word or some shit like that? Like, he was doing all the dumbest shit to go viral.
Pussy N-word, yeah.
Right, yeah. So he was just doing whatever he could to go viral. And even with the music, you know, this was a guy who wasn't scared to get songwriters. This is a guy who wasn't scared to, you know, claim that he was in a gang, claim that he was a psycho. You know, it was even little things. Like, I remember one of his old videos, he's popping out of this car and he's got a double cup and a cigarette. And I'm like, he has never smoked cigarettes and he has never drank lean. Like, this is a dude who is willing to do whatever to be successful. And I mean, I guess him staying out of jail means that he would be more successful than somebody who goes in and does their 10 years or whatever. So, I mean, I'm really not surprised at all. Like, why would I have ever thought that he would have been in any way committed to his gang unit that he teamed up with? I just never... If anything, I think the thing that's kind of baffling is that a bunch of actual gang members were able to be fooled into supporting this guy in any way for some period of time.
Well, yeah, he brought down the 9 Trey Bloods single-handedly, one of the oldest blood sets in New York. One rainbow-haired kid. I think Sarah Molina even said it, that he manipulated all of them.
Yeah.
This rainbow-haired kid went and took them all down.
Yeah.
I mean, Shotty got like, 10 years. Mel Murder got like 15. Like, everyone got like double digits for the most part. They're all gone. And we don't know what's going to happen. Now, keep in mind that everyone's like, oh, you're going to be out by Christmas. It could get to the judge, and the judge will say 5 years.
Yeah, I've had so many people telling me that they absolutely don't believe that he's getting out this year or whatever. I mean, I'm not really... I don't really give a shit either way. I guess the internet's going to be a lot more entertaining as soon as he gets out, realistically, unless he's barred from being on the internet. But otherwise, I mean, I could really give a fuck less. Like, to me, it's certain things that, like, rappers do that you just put them in a different category. Like, if a rapper snitches, if a rapper...
Gets a ghostwriter?
I mean, that's probably not... Yeah, maybe...
That was a thing, man.
For a lot of people, that would be enough, yeah.
That was a thing.
If a rapper becomes a Christian rapper, it's kind of over for me, you know? I'm not really trying to listen to it.
You got Kanye.
And I listened to it just to see what it was hitting for, but...
It wasn't bad. There was a few songs on there I liked. It wasn't as good as a typical Kanye album. I'll say that. But these days, there's just no more rules when it comes to any of this stuff. If it came out that Rakim had a ghostwriter, Rakim would not be on anyone's list, and Rakim would not be considered Rakim. Dre came through and changed all that. And Kanye had been changing that because Kanye was using writers. There's never been a rapper that snitched before. Well, there you go. He's going to come out and people are going to be checking for his music. Tekashi, I mean. Troy Ave. I don't know what's going on with the whole Taxstone trial, but Troy Ave has announced that he's going to be getting on the stand and telling. So we'll see what happens with his music when he comes out. He's not exactly a hot rapper these days. He was definitely hotter before all this happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, there's never been a gay rapper before, right? There's never been an openly gay rapper.
I mean, that shit got left in the dust.
And Lil Nas X came through with the biggest song of like the century,
Right.
breaking every record. And now he's up for like a couple of Grammys.
Yeah. And he wearing green suits with the shoulders out
Oh
the
yeah.
and shit.
Oh, he's real gay. He's all
he's gay
gay
as
all
hell, yeah.
night. Like,
At first, I was kind of like, damn, like, do I really believe this guy's gay? Because I was thinking, like, it seems like it would be sort of advantageous to his career to say he was gay, even if he wasn't. But now I think, yeah, like, I don't need to see him suck a dick to know he's gay.
I mean, when you heard the announcement and you looked at him, you were like, no, never. No, not this guy. Couldn't be. You're like, all right. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And then you went and finished your hamburger. Like, I mean, that's basically how I looked at it. Like, okay, this guy gay. Okay, yeah.
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 He could eat a dick, yeah. That guy? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always kind of weird because the McConan thing was the one that in my lifetime, or that in my recent memory, seems like it really kind of broke it open.
Yeah, but McConan is kind of an interesting case because McConan kind of announced that when he was sort of not really hot at that stage. He had already been dropped by OVO. Tuesday was a song that was like 2 or 3 years old. There was no new hit songs on the horizon. He threw it out there and it was like, okay, oh yeah, the guy with the Tuesday song. He wasn't like on the charts and doing his thing and moving the needle.
Yeah, and also like being gay wasn't as hot then. Like now, being gay is all the rage. Like especially when Lil Nas dropped that in the middle of Gay Pride Month, and it was like, you know, every day in the news was some big new gay power story or whatever. It really felt like the right time. I'm not sure if in like a couple years from now it might seem like less of the right time because it feels like the whole like gay pride acceptance thing just keeps ramping up and becoming more and more part of our culture. Like I'm not sure at what point, you know, 7-Eleven is gonna stop doing like fucking gay pride bumper stickers, or the Gap has got fucking big ass like pride flags outside of their shit. Like I'm not sure at what point that's gonna slow down because that just seems like the most insincere display of support imaginable from a lot of these companies. But
Yeah, I'm not really feeling the whole trendy gay thing. Like if you're gay, you're gay.
Yeah.
Just be gay. Like,
wouldn't you think that that would be in their benefit to just be like, yo, like everybody stop fucking using our culture to like market yourselves, and just can't this just be another way of life? I mean, I guess I understand that they've defeated a lot of obstacles that are in front of them, but
Yeah. You did XXXTentacion's first interview. And you guys maintained a relationship along the way. What did you think when that comic made that joke, the Venmo joke about XXX?
right, she said that him getting killed because he had 50,000 in cash was, that really made her rethink Venmo, or like thought, oh, Venmo's a great idea. And then
she said that would make a great Venmo commercial or something.
Right, yeah. And I mean, it's weird because all these comics want to live in this little insulated society where they get to joke around about everything, and then if anybody gets even a little bit offended, they jump down their throats and they act like this is great injustice. To me, that was a weird one because I'm like, you know, you might not like him because he's a rapper or because he was accused of all the shit. I mean, at the end of the day, this is like a 20-year-old black kid that got gunned down in the street. And it just doesn't feel like an appropriate thing to make a joke about for me, like, you know, 6 months after it happened or whatever. It's like, I just have a hard time wrapping my head around how she thought she wasn't going to get that reaction, you know?
Well, I interview a lot of comics
Yeah.
on VladTV. And I've become friends with them over time. I go to stand-ups.
Right.
I definitely like it. It's something that's important in my life. I honestly feel that there really is no place that a comic should not go.
Right.
you should be able to joke about whatever you want. Now, that particular audience may not like it, but if you think about I remember D.L. Hughley said something about this during one of our early interviews where he said that he feels comedy is what actually progresses society.
I think comedy has led the way to us becoming more human. I think it's the reason that we evolve. I do.
Comedy is the reason why we evolve.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is the reason we evolve.
Huh.
Absolutely.
Because the comics are the only ones that can actually tell the truth. If you go back to like, the time of kings and castles, the court jester was the only one that could tell the king about himself. Everyone else had to be political. Everyone else had to be careful about what they said because they might get their head chopped off or they might get excommunicated or whatever else. But the court jester could be right there in front of everybody and tell the king that, he's got a side chick and, he's got a venereal disease and that he just lost that war and the people all hate him and everyone laughs and there's always some truth in all these jokes.
Right.
And they continue to roll with it. Did I think that was a funny joke about X? No, I didn't laugh. And I never knew him, but I appreciated his music. But can I see from a comic side where it would be what she was trying to do by using morbid humor and stuff like that? Yeah, I get it.
Right, because the thing about it, though, is that, she's certainly allowed to make that joke. She made that joke on TV. It spread all over the internet. Comedy Central or whoever took it and, cut it, spread it intentionally to make that the centerpiece joke. And then what's the actual reaction? She gets a bunch of fucking goons online saying that they hate her and stuff. I mean, you could say whatever you want. You're just going to have to deal with the fact that people are going to make jokes about it. When I'm in private with my friends, there's jokes that I'll make that I would never say on camera, and that I'm sure if they surface that people would be like, oh, you're a really fucked up person for thinking that was funny. And I'm okay with that, and that's why I wouldn't make that joke publicly. And it's like I can't think of a recently deceased gay icon who would be a good example to use in place of X here. But if I did have something some fucking joke about blank gay influencer superstar who died within recent memory, I don't think I would be making that joke, even if I was a comic. But if I did make that joke, I would 100% be expecting people to go fucking crazy. I wouldn't be expecting, I don't think it would be fair if I, lost my job or my house or my fucking family left me or whatever because I made that joke. But I mean, again, the only consequences that she had to deal with were a bunch of people online saying, you're a fucked up piece of shit for making that joke. And then she decided to delete it and have it removed from the special, the TV show, whatever. And I understand that partially that's because she probably feared for her safety. She probably really thought people were going to show up and fucking burn her house down or something. But I mean, that's what it is. If you want to make a joke that jokes around about someone who is a beloved musician that was brutally murdered in the street, and then the worst thing that happens to you is you have a bunch of dudes on Twitter saying fuck you, bitch.
Well, I didn't know that she deleted it. I actually think she's a coward, if that's the case. If you're going to say that joke, then stand behind it.
Yeah.
Keep rocking with it. Yeah, I see y'all offended. All right, I'll have to get security for a little while. Oh, well. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Stand behind your humor. I remember when I interviewed Eddie Griffin, and he was actually friends with Michael Jackson, he was telling me about child molester jokes that he would tell Michael.
And Michael just rocked.
Michael just laughed. Michael invited him up to a hotel room in Miami or something. He's like, hey, man, here, have a seat on the bed. Oh, no, motherfucker. I know where this is going to go. I ain't sitting nowhere.
So, anyway, we got to bouncing ideas and shit. And my brother runs out the room. He like, nigga, I can't believe y'all motherfuckers just finished each other's sentences and shit. So Michael's like, sit on the bed. I'm like, nigga, that's how you got in trouble. Sit on the bed.
Oh, so you're making pedophile jokes.
Like a motherfucker.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
And he would make jokes. He made fun of, he said Michael Jackson smoked crack. Look how fucked up his face is. And
right.
Michael Jackson liked it. And they became friends.
Yeah.
You got to be able to take a joke.
No, I agree.
That's why you have roasts.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch some of these roasts, they're pretty personal.
Yeah.
They really go in.
Definitely. But then at the same time, I don't know. I mean, the thing about the X joke that she made is that probably 99% of his fan base are not familiar with the rules of comedy, that you can joke around about whatever you want, and that that's sort of like an important principle of comedy. And I certainly get that, but the vast majority of his fans just have no context for understanding that.
Well, when it comes to super fans, like honestly, they could all kick rocks as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they're going to be pissed no matter what.
Yeah, like whenever we do anything big regarding any celebrity, the super fans come in, and no matter what was presented, like I remember we did an interview with Omarion recently, and at the end I asked him to name like his top 4. It was Mount Rushmore of singers, and we did male singers and we did female singers. So when I had him talk about the female singers, I brought up Christina Aguilera, and all the Beyonce fans like, oh, you're such a racist. Why are you going to try to cram this white woman down his throat? And it's like, well, first of all, Beyonce fan, super fan with her picture on your profile. When he did his first, if you actually watch the whole interview, not the one that you just put up, the little clip you put up, but the whole part, he had actually forgotten about Beyonce. I was the one that brought up Beyonce, which caused him to reshuffle his list.
Right.
And add her. Well, because Beyonce is not on that list.
Well, yeah, she would be. She would be. So let's say Beyonce, Beyonce, Whitney, did I say Aretha?
Aretha Franklin.
And then who else? There was one more. Oh, Whitney. No. Lauren.
No.
Oh, that's
Lauren.
fire. That's fire. So okay. Lauren, Whitney, Beyonce, and Aretha. Oh, that's it right there.
Can I throw out some other ones here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Christina Aguilera.
I could see how that would be someone's choice. Amazing voice. Yeah. But not particularly my favorite.
Well, she has such a powerful voice, though. Like,
Come
I feel
on
like
now.
her voice, in terms of just sheer power, kind of is a step above everyone else's to a certain degree. You know,
Well, it's a singing style. You
Yeah.
know, Beyonce can do that too. She just doesn't sing in that style.
I feel you.
Yeah.
But the fact that I mentioned Christina Aguilera, now I'm a racist.
She's in that conversation of like best singers? I didn't even know that.
Who?
Christina Aguilera?
I feel she is.
I got to read.
I personally feel she is.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a huge blind spot for me. I don't know anything about like R&B.
I just feel
singing,
she has this voice that's just so huge.
Right.
That I would put her in my top list, but he chose not to, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is, of course, an XXX fan's gonna hate her guts.
Right.
Because anything said at all non-praising about their favorite artist is gonna be cause to kill this person.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the crazy shit about it, honestly, is just kind of like the platform. That's really what did it, because me and every other X-fan or X-supporter has seen viral tweets with 100,000 retweets that were saying something negative about X. That's just, we're all used to that at this point, you know, regardless of how fucked up we think it is or whatever. But then to see it being supported by Comedy Central and them like really putting it out there, like, oh, this is this mainstream thing now. You can just laugh at this fucking dead kid. I mean, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm gonna be real with you. After, you know, I'm not really trying to hear a comic make a joke about Nipsey right now, and I have a hard time imagining the funny Nipsey is dead joke that a comedian can make. You know, X is a little bit more of an easy punching bag because I don't know, he wasn't like a gangster rapper or whatever. But I'm just like, I just say that as an example to say, I don't really think that like, I think comedians should be able to joke about whatever they want, but when you want to just really shit on somebody who's just taken out of this world in the most brutal way possible, I don't get it.
Well, I interviewed Guy Torry, the comedian, and we talked about how he made Tupac jokes right after he died.
Right.
Tupac death jokes.
Right.
And he admitted it. He goes, yeah, I was trying to kind of make light of the situation a little bit, and it may have been taken out of context, it may not, but this is what I do. So we talk about current events, and Tupac just got killed, and you started doing jokes about a shooting the next day.
Well, here's the thing. Pac used to always come to Fat Tuesdays. And so, you know, he got shot at the Tyson fight that weekend in Vegas. So that Tuesday, I'm like, I got to address this. but how can I address it and not bring the mood of the audience down, right? So I remember that night, there was a singer who sang the national anthem. I think his name was Desi. I think he was managed by Tyson's management. And it was a, light-skinned, El DeBarge looking dude with the suave hair and the cream suit or whatever. And he was fucking horrible. He was horrible. So I went on stage like, yo, you heard Tupac got shot, man. I hope everything is all right. I said, I think it was a case of mistaken identity. I said, they wasn't trying to shoot Tupac. They was trying to shoot that nigga who sang the national anthem. And when I said that, the place erupted, and I went on with the joke. And then so I addressed it, and I moved on, didn't bring the mood down to the room, and moved on with the night.
I guess at the time there was like a woman who did a really bad rendition of the national anthem at some like baseball game or something.
Yeah, I think I remember
and he
that,
was like, oh, they weren't trying to kill Tupac, they were trying to kill that girl who did that. They were aiming for her.
Right.
But you're kind of making a Tupac death joke, and Tupac just died, and people were completely in love with Tupac.
Yeah.
So, hey, comedians gonna make jokes about people dying. It just is what it is.
Yeah, I just think it's in bad taste. And for me personally, like if I'm in a comedy club and they start making a joke about Tupac, I mean, it's been 20-something years, I'm still not really trying to hear it. Like I don't really, like maybe if it's super fucking funny and if he's not really the butt of the joke, I could see it. But I mean, to me, like when you're making a fucking like, I mean, again, we're just like comparing it to the worst shit ever, but there's still, the vast majority of the time that somebody makes a Holocaust joke, it's not funny. It's not, it's a very hard thing to use as a comedic prop, and that was a long ass time ago. For me, the kid that is the beloved musician that got gunned down in the street a year ago seems like even more of a clear example of something that like maybe the world's not really ready to hear you joke about this yet.
Well, when you look at Griselda Records, West Side Gun has a whole mixtape series called Hitler Wears Hermes, which is kind of a Holocaust joke if you really think about it.
Right.
Right. He's got a picture of Hitler wearing some fly clothes,
Yeah.
painting, and the president of Shady Records is a Jewish guy,
Right.
Paul Rosenberg. I heard they weren't too happy about that.
They weren't. Interesting.
But me being Jewish, and I remember I was talking to Conway about this, and he explained it to me what it was. It was like taking the most grimiest shit with the most flyest shit and kind of creating this sort of weird art with it. I'm like, and he's like, yeah, we're not talking about gassing Jews and doing extermination. Like none of that stuff's covered in the content.
Right.
Why that name? Like why go with this whole Hitler thing?
Cause he was on some, my brother is on some extra, like artsy, or fly and grimy. He try to merge. He don't try. He do it. Like he merged all that shit, like the grimiest, disrespectful shit ever, with the most flyest, prestigious shit ever. You know what I mean? With some art, and you know what I mean? And some wrestling and all that shit. He just fused all that shit in the pot like gumbo. You know what I'm saying? And he just, that shit was just a spinoff of like the Devil's Wear Prada movie.
And I'm like, as a Jewish man, I'm like, I get it. Not offended by it.
Right.
I wouldn't wear a Hitler t-shirt. I'm not going to wear the merch. But I get it. Hey, at the end of the day, you got to get over shit. You can't be triggered by everything your whole life.
Right.
You got to, especially when there's not a bad intention behind it. Now, if this was someone who hated X, like they had a personal problem, he's like, yeah, I'm going to use this platform to shit on him now. I'm going to go piss on his grave on
She
video.
really didn't seem like she knew shit about it.
She didn't really know.
That was the problem, is that she didn't realize, there's a whole bunch of goons that are going to come for you at least online for this.
Yeah, like I said, I think she's a coward for taking it down. She just stood behind it. Well, you've actually said that XXXTentacion is the Tupac of this generation.
I did say that, and TMZ showed up the next day to talk about it.
Do you still feel that way? Because I don't personally feel that way.
Okay, I meant it at the time in the sense that I see them as very similar figures, in the sense that like when I think about Pac, he seemed like he was just so open and just feeling everything and just constantly just like releasing his emotions on you through his music and his interviews and whatever. And I got a lot of that same thing from X, that I felt like the fans were just overwhelmingly dedicated to him because he was just feeling shit. Like he was so emotional and he was just so out there presenting himself to you. And I mean, obviously time will tell because there's been a lot of very important rappers who have passed away, and then realistically people ain't really talking about them 5 years later, and Tupac is the exception to that rule because it's been 25 years and we're still talking about him. Will X's legacy stand that test of time? I don't know, but I will say that in terms of just like seeing an irrational outpouring of love and support for somebody who passed young, I just can't think of an example of somebody I've seen who I would really put in that category besides Tupac and Biggie. I feel like whatever Pac was to his generation, X is that to a large percentage of kids out there.
You don't think Nipsey is more of a realization of that than X?
I mean, the Nipsey thing was big, but I feel like Nipsey is kind of regarded as more of like an icon of his community and of being this sort of like stand-up West Coast representative, whereas with X, I saw these kids having like a really unhinged obsession with the music more so specifically. Like they loved him as an artist. I feel like they loved Nipsey as a person in a lot of ways.
I feel that, I think that's a very good point. Well, X had bigger songs than Nipsey. When X dropped, I remember looking at the Spotify charts and it was like his whole album. It was like from 1 to 15 was X.
Right.
And he had much bigger songs. Nipsey was more of an underground artist. People, you know, when someone dies in such a tragic way, especially someone who did things for the community and so forth, history books get rewritten to a certain degree, where he was this giant musician and these huge songs. No, that just wasn't really the case. He was still an underground artist that was building up. That last album was really dope, and I think that last album was potentially the springboard to bigger things.
But he definitely didn't get the love from the radio or the media or any of that shit. Like
you do not hear Nipsey Hussle on the radio, even in LA.
He gets it now. Yeah,
he gets it now.
When you hear Racks in the Middle and all these fucking songs,
that came after he died.
Right, but you're kind of like, why were these songs not bumping? Like, why were people not getting behind these songs while he was alive? It seems kind of weird, even for myself. I'm like, I DM'd Nipsey. I tried to get in touch with him a little bit, but I never really went above and beyond to really do content with him. I know you had an interview with him and stuff.
I've interviewed him, yeah.
I mean, when I think about it now, I'm like, damn, he was such an LA icon that I was really slipping by not going more out of my way to really try to get that, you know?
I mean, I have a long laundry list of people that I was about to interview and they passed away.
Right.
There's a bunch of people from, Dick Gregory to Ronnie Newt to, I forgot the Baton Rouge artist who got killed. To like G Money, people who had literally had interviews scheduled that never made it to the interview. Wow. So you're not going to get every interview. Life happens, and I did get one of John Witherspoon's last interviews. I thought that was crazy. Dope, and his life story, essentially, which I thought was very important. But
which at the end of the day is really what best thing you could accomplish. Create a blueprint for people to create the definitive blueprint for a person, whether it's really earlier in their life or really late in their life, to have that stick in there. And I got that from you in large part too. It was like realizing when you make that piece of content, you might get 90% of the views it's ever gonna get in that first week, but it's sitting there and being Googleable and being something that's gonna stand as like a tomb to this person has massive importance.
Well, right. Are you trying to create timeless content, or do you just want to go viral by asking, whatever's the gossipy thing of that particular day? Me personally, I'm trying to create the timeless content. I am going to cover the gossipy stuff as well, but that's not really the aim of what I do. Right. It's really the important timeless stuff. Well, you had a deal with Atlantic at some point, and you put out some records and so forth.
One record.
One record?
I believe one, yeah.
Okay. Tay-K was on it, right?
Tay-K and Block Boy, yeah.
Block Boy JB. And then you lost your record deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had a 1-year deal, and we did the 1 year. And then we decided not to go forward from there.
Okay. Was it because of all the allegations that started to resurface?
So first off, we had a 1-year deal, and we did the 1 year, and then we sort of hit the end of the 1 year. And then we had a conversation, and they basically explained, we're like a big fucking corporate company. and we have a lot of bullshit that we got to deal with, people we got to answer to, and they're like, you know, you ended up being a bit more controversial than we maybe had planned on, and it's kind of stopped us from getting a lot of stuff done. But the thing about it too was that I really didn't want to be in that deal at all after the first year, because, you know, and even like leading up to that, it was just like, it was sort of draining me. It was the first time in my life that I really felt like I was working, you know, like really just working, like going in and doing a job. I'm doing these meetings. I don't want to be in the meetings, but I'm doing this meeting, talking about this record, talking about this artist I was trying to sign, etc. And, you know, it's just, I started to realize that I signed a deal that probably wasn't the best situation for me, and where I was basically just, I felt like I was working for the first time in my life. Because normally when I'm doing No Jumper stuff and I'm doing a meeting or I'm doing an interview, it's like, I feel like everything I'm doing there impacts what I'm working on. And with the No Jumper Records thing, it just felt like, this is kind of just a silly waste of time thing that I'm doing. And they were trying to get me to sign artists that I didn't fuck with at all, that I'm like, you know, in retrospect, I'm just like, holy fuck, like I came so close to being associated with signing this artist through Atlantic. And it wasn't that I wanted to sign him, it was that basically they signed me and then they were gonna use the No Jumper name to like create this brand, you know? At the same time, they're not married to it like the way I am. So they can take that risk of signing a trash artist. For me, that's gonna haunt me forever. So, I mean, I just really wasn't into it. And when they ended it, or when they said they wanted to end it, I was just like, man, that sounds fucking great for me. Because I mean, I've had a whole bunch of different offers since then, and they're all pretty similar. And now I know what I was getting into, and I'm just like, wow, like, I'm glad I got that one paycheck, because realistically, I didn't have to do much for that one paycheck, but I don't think I would ever take that paycheck again.
Okay. What were the allegations that were the most kind of damaging during that time?
I mean, the allegations, the crazy shit about it was just that it was a girl from 10, 12 years ago that I dated who just decided that I raped her, like, all these years later. And it was crazy, too, because at first she was trying to tell this reporter that she was underage when I slept with her. And then the reporter starts looking into it and he figures out, like, oh, no, like, you were of age. Like, she was of age when I met her. It's like, it would have been impossible. But she told this reporter that I had a sexual relationship with her when she was underage. And then he starts digging into it, figures out she was not, in fact, underage. And, I mean, that's just an example of, like, how ridiculous the storyline was. But, I mean, again, she was anonymous. She never had to supply any sort of, like, you know, evidence at all. There's no corroboration. There's no friend that said that she talked to him about it at the time. It was just nothing. And I mean, actually about that specific thing and the other girl from back around that same time period who came out anonymously and said shit about me, like, Atlantic did a whole, they hired investigators to investigate all of that shit. I sat through like many, many hours of investigation, and the investigators told them that they didn't have anything solid to go on.
Yeah, I really feel lucky that when social media originally started with MySpace, I was already DJ Vlad. So I was already keenly aware that whatever I put out into the social media world was going to get recorded, screenshotted, used against me in the future. Yeah. So I was always very conscious of all the things I put out there.
Right.
I never had the anonymous social media personality where I could, you know, anything that just fluttered into my head, I would just spurt it out there and just forget about it a year later.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I just feel a little bit lucky, because if I was completely anonymous, if I thought, you know, my 13 followers don't care about whatever I say, there would probably be some dumb shit that I've said over the years.
Right.
At the time, you know, you were not Adam22 yet. You did not have a podcast. You were just living know, more of a private life. And it kind of sucks. I don't know what happened. I'm not trying to downplay the situation with these women, but it sucks in 2019 going to 2020 that you can make decade-old allegations and it sticks and it affects you, and there's no proof, and the person's anonymous, and there's no police report, and there's no evidence, there's no photograph, there's no video. It's just simply an allegation, and you are convicted at that point to a certain degree.
Yeah. By the people who want to convict you, because it's like, in that situation, it's like given that there's no proof or no evidence, no anything, it's like you could just basically, it's a litmus test for how people feel about you. If somebody's already kind of in a position where they tend to not like you or they didn't think you seemed that great, they're going to hear this accusation and be like, oh, fuck it, he's guilty.
Well,
if somebody likes you, they're going to hear about it and be like, nah, there's no proof, you know?
Well, not to say this is the same thing at all, but just this weekend, you sent me a text message with a screenshot of a meme that said, the judge in ARAB's case thanks VladTV for helping them to convict ARAB for this drug empire. And you're like, is this true? And I'm like, no, it is not true.
As soon as you responded, I was like, I didn't have to ask. Yeah.
No, it came from an unknown website with absolutely no proof whatsoever. You can pull up the transcripts if you want. Judges don't thank bloggers for convictions. Like, he's not even convicted at this point.
Yeah. Oh, he's not, okay.
No, he's been found guilty, but he hasn't been sentenced. I'm sorry, he's been convicted,
okay.
You're right. He's been convicted, he hasn't been sentenced.
Right.
There is no truth in this, but this meme started to just take off to the point where early this week, a couple of lesser known but established media outlets put it out.
Really?
Yeah, and I had to call them up and be like, yo, like, you can't do news articles about a meme from a meme as your source. Look where this came from. And they both took it down.
Wow.
But the damage was already kind of done. It was one of those things where I never publicly addressed it because I didn't want to give it any more light. Because you know how it works. You deny it. It's like, of course he's going to deny it because it's true.
Lie spreads a lot faster than the truth.
A lie will get around the world and back before the truth could put on its socks.
There it is. Yeah. That's real, man.
And that's what happens, man. And a lot of times you just got to sit back and just ride it out. If there's really no real truth in it, it'll just go so far.
Yeah. And one of the weirdest pieces of advice that I got early on was just somebody saying, like, people are addicted to shit that's new. And they're like, this will be old at some point, and it'll just be some shit that happened. Because the truth is that I'm not that person at all. It's like, no girl's gonna like pop up tomorrow and say, oh, Adam just did this to me. Like, any girl who's ever worked with me in terms of the porn shit, in terms of doing interviews, in terms of people's publicists, in terms of, booking shows, 5 million different women that I have had to deal with over the past couple of years in terms of this career and stuff. And I never heard any of them saying that I acted inappropriately or said something crazy to them or anything. I'm super, super mega aware of where I'm at. And if any woman is around me, I want her to feel comfortable. And I would never want to like overstep that line. So it's like, you have a crazy accusation with no proof, but then enough time goes by and you continue to seem like you're successful and people are just sort of forced to conclude like, oh shit, well, you seem like a nice guy to me.
Yeah. Well, after that, there was a series of tweets that came out from like, I guess, 2009. Some of them were pretty out of pocket.
This is true.
I gotta keep on it. We're friends, but it is what it is.
Dude, I mean, I just want to explain what Twitter was to me in like 2008, 2009. It was literally like me and all my BMX friends like sitting in the van or sitting in our living room at the house or whatever, tweeting the most offensive jokes that we could think of, like that we were just saying, like people were quoting shit that people were saying in the room without quotation marks on it and shit. Like, the fact that stuff has now been viewed by like a modern audience and they're like trying to make sense of it is just,
Yeah, I mean, saying that girls were hotter when they were 15 and let's see some of this. Some of these other ones. Yeah, the underage stuff is really.
Yeah, I don't even know. Some of that shit, I just don't even remember what the fuck we were talking about.
There's a few where you're using the N-word.
Yeah. It was really mostly lyrics, I think, which is, was certainly a bad idea at the time as well. But, I just fucking, when I think about that time period, it's weird because I think about all the other white kids I knew, I think were tweeting rap lyrics without censoring the N-word either. Like, 2008, 2009. And it really didn't stand out to me as something that I ever even thought about at that time period, you know? And now it seems so incredibly obvious, like, why would you ever do that? Why would you ever think that was okay? But, you know.
Well, Justin Bieber recovered from it.
And he actually, like, edited his own song to have
Yeah.
the N-word. I saw that the
and
other
talked
day.
about being part of the Ku Klux Klan and killing black people.
I saw that
Personally,
recently. I was like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I remember interviewing Talib Kweli recently, and I
Right.
played him that clip for the first
I
time.
saw that, yeah.
And he was like traumatized. He was like, "Yo, I'd never seen that before." Like, you don't remember that video that surfaced of Justin Bieber, "One Less Lonely N-Word"?
I've never seen that.
You've never seen that?
No, I don't know about this.
Do you want to see it?
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not?
Let's check out the Biebs being racist.
One less lonely.
What the fuck is that from?
Lonely.
What? Why was he doing that?
One less lonely.
Oh, he thought it was hilarious.
One less. If I kill you, I'll
that's
be
fun.
part of the KKK. That there'll be one less lonely.
How old was he?
There'll be one less lonely.
How old was he?
Oh, this was around 2014.
No, how old was he?
How old was he? Let's do the math.
Fucking Justin Bieber. That is disgusting, Justin Bieber. You should be ashamed of yourself.
It's gonna be uncomfortable next time I'm next to Justin Bieber.
And it was
But
probably
look at
10
him.
years ago, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, this says a lot that we have a hard time remembering that tape from 10 years ago, and it's like Justin Bieber.
Well, it wasn't
one
even
of the-
10. I think it was maybe like 6, 7 years ago.
Okay, but I mean, Justin Bieber, one of the biggest stars, and has a pretty clean image for the most part. Distinctly white. Distinctly should not be using the N-word. And man,
Yeah. Well, since last time we talked, someone pulled a gun on you during a live interview.
That did
During a
happen.
live broadcast.
Live stream where
Live
we
stream, yeah.
play the fans' music for money or whatever. Yeah.
So this bozo came in and literally pulled out a gun.
A fake gun, but it seemed real.
It
at
was
the
a
time.
fake gun. Everyone thought it was a publicity stunt. When I first saw it, I said, that's not a publicity stunt. That this is something fucked up that just happened.
You knew. Okay, that's good.
It was obvious to me. But so he pulled out a fake gun and put it to your head. And then what happened?
So basically, like, one of my employees went out to get the delivery for everybody. We still did interviews in the back of the store at this time. Now we got a new space. But as he's coming in, the door is unlocked for a couple seconds, and this employee has a gun on him. So somehow, in this couple seconds where the door is unlocked, this dude was apparently just lurking in the back of the store, hiding behind one of the cars or whatever, and he slips through the door and, puts the gun in my face, and I think he said, give me all your motherfucking money. And then he said, like, do you want to die? Some shit like that. And, like, almost within seconds of me, like, sort of processing this and, like, realizing, and you're doing this weird dance where you're trying to bat the gun out of your face, like, as if that's going to change anything if you were to choose to fire it. And then right behind him, I see my guy with a gun out at this guy's head. So, I mean, this is, like, the emotions that I'm going through. It's like, holy fuck, I'm going to die. But maybe this is a joke. Maybe this is my friend. Maybe somebody's doing a prank on me. Because in that moment, and like why people said that or people were freaked out that I said like hee, I laugh. It's like, I really didn't know if it was a joke or not. It seemed kind of more likely that it would be a prank or it would be somebody fucking around than that it would be real. And then the next thing I think after that too is like, holy fuck, this dude's gonna get killed right in front of me because there's a gun to this guy's head or whatever. And then within seconds he's on the ground and they just beat the shit out of him and knocked him out. And I mean, I still just don't have any like answers for it. We figured out his Instagram and we figured out that he had DM'd me like a dozen times or whatever, and I'd never seen it or responded. So maybe that was part of it. I was actually in court recently and I seen him and his dad together and everything.
Okay, so he gets arrested.
Right, so we call the cops because, what are we gonna do? We got this like passed out body on the ground in our fucking bike shop. And then the cops are like, wait, but so you subdued him so we don't have to come? We're like, No, yeah, you still have to come. Like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna drag this body into the alley, and we're gonna take this gun, and we're gonna put it in the shelf. Like, of course you have to come. Like, the fact that they were really not trying to come was like mind blowing. I'm like, I told you a guy just ran in and tried to attack me with a weapon. Like, what are you fucking talking about? But then they did show up. And
was he still unconscious when they showed up?
He was sort of like squirming around and like, cause he tried to get up at one point and he tried to like leave.
Right.
So that the other guy who worked for me again, like, you know, smacks him and throws him on the ground, kicks him in the head again, and boom, he's passed out again. And then the cops finally come and they arrested him. They took some notes and shit, took statements from us. But I mean, even through that, I didn't really figure out anything about why he would have wanted to do that. And then I went to court with him the other day.
Okay, so did you press charges?
Press charges? I didn't have to press charges because it's just like a criminal complaint against him for, I don't know exactly what the charge was.
Aggravated harassment, maybe.
Something like that.
Okay. So he gets charged by the city.
Right.
And you show up to court?
Yeah, they called me.
As a witness?
Yeah, like they called me and they said, you know, you got to be at this court at like, 7 in the morning. It's like, I had to get up at like 5:30 in the morning. Like I normally get up at 9 or 8:30. I feel like that's early. I'm getting up so fucking early, driving the worst traffic. I didn't even know traffic was that bad. I get there, I'm like just sitting there like looking at my phone for like an hour and a half. And one of my other employees was with me who was there. They called for him to come as well. And he just like pokes me at one point. He's like, look, and it's right in front of me is the fucking kid sitting there with his dad right in front of me. And they ended up like calling him, and I didn't even like fully grasp the conversation that was happening, but basically they were like, oh, this is getting postponed and you don't have to come in for his next trial date. And I'm like, you made me come all the way here and now you're telling me that you don't even need me and you don't need me the next time that you're gonna fucking talk to him in court or whatever. So I have no idea what's gonna happen now. And yeah, I mean, it's very easy to lose faith in the justice system quickly.
Okay. If he ends up doing like 5 years, would you feel some type of way about it, or did he get what he deserves?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's getting 5 years, but if he did, yeah, for sure he deserves that. Like, I even thought about like, oh, I don't want to be the reason why somebody goes to jail or whatever. I was having a conversation with Logan Paul, dude. He had a fucking stalker who came to his house like 8 times, and he ended up not pressing charges on the guy, at least like the first or second time they got caught or whatever. The guy just kept doing it. Now the guy's doing a long-ass bit in jail, but like, when you're dealing with these crazy-ass fans, it's like, they are a real security threat, and I think that you gotta go hard on them.
Yeah, no, I remember after this whole bullshit, the fake ARAB article, I started getting death threats in my DM. Like some guy said, oh, when you're in New York, you're dead. And I'm in New York reading this. Like, and what's funny is that I go to his Instagram page and he's standing next to his car with the license plate showing, goes, yeah, this is my car, you can't have a ride or something. Like, this is the type of bozo that's doing death threats these days.
Wow.
Someone who has their face, he had like 10,000 followers, he's got his face, he's got his driver's license. And I was like, do I just go to the police and turn this in?
But they're not gonna do shit.
Just in case this guy is actually serious? Or do I think that it's not serious? And I just said, forget it. This doesn't seem serious to me because it's not like repeated. He's not trying to show up to my house. He's not doing this. He's just sending an angry DM based on a fake article.
Right.
Do I want to send this guy to jail over that because he got emotional and decided to DM me something like that? Or maybe he wants me to press charges so he can become Instagram famous, off of, oh, Vlad snitched on me.
Right.
So I just left it alone.
I feel like the cops ain't gonna do shit about it. But I feel like maybe if you lived in Kansas, they might consider.
You never know. I mean, depends on what this guy's past record is.
If he has
a history, if he has a history of this type of bullshit or other whatever, they might be like, all right, well, if you're pressing charges, because it's called aggravated harassment.
Right.
Threatening to kill somebody is called, through an electronic means, is called aggravated harassment. And the cops could actually subpoena Instagram, get his personal information. Like, people who send you death threats, you actually can press charges if you want. But it also depends on the state.
Right.
Like, I remember this one cop explained to me, like, in California, it doesn't quite work that way because a threat is only viable if that person actually has the opportunity to follow through with that.
Yeah.
Like, if I have a gun on me and I tell you I'm gonna kill you, and I'm sitting here with a gun on me, then that could be a serious threat.
Right.
But if I'm in, the Bay Area and I DM that I'm gonna kill you, well, I have no way of doing that, so therefore it's not a real threat. It is what it is. It's gonna take I remember hearing about how the OJ case changed the way California deals with domestic violence calls, because in his particular case, they were called, him and his ex-wife, Nicole Simpson. She had called about domestic violence a whole bunch of times. Police would show up, they see it's OJ, they wouldn't arrest anyone, they would leave, and then she ends up dead. And then after that, when the police show up about a domestic violence situation, someone's getting arrested.
Right. Makes sense.
So, maybe one of these DM death threats ends up getting followed through, and then after that, you're gonna see a whole bunch of people go to prison over that shit.
Yeah, shit, maybe. For us, I feel like I just gotta, anytime I'm working, we gotta have people on deck to protect whatever is gonna happen. And I don't work out of the store anymore either. So it's like if I pull up to the store, because we moved out, it's just so much easier to do interviews when you don't have to think about, Lil Yachty popping in the front of the store and he wants to talk to you and the employee, it's like all these, and that's best case scenario. That's like a good thing. You know, like the people showing up who have problems or whatever, that's rough. But I mean, even the stuff with people showing up who just want to hang out, just want to show love, just want to talk. It's like when I'm in back doing an 1.5 hour long interview and I do not want to be disturbed at all, it's just, I got a lot of attention, I guess, and a lot of good things came from doing podcasts out of the store, but, I'm over it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have an office in New York, I have a studio here, but I'm not at either place on a regular basis. You have to really be camped out for like a week to catch me. If you're that serious, you deserve it.
Yeah, for sure.
Since last time, there was a whole situation with Russ. And I remember me and you hung out.
Right.
This one time, the first time we met up, we had lunch, and you were telling me that you were like at a nail shop down the street, and a bunch of guys showed up, called your name out, and just basically punched you.
Right.
Talk about that situation.
All right, so we had an event at the store. I forget exactly what it was. It was something with Lil Peep, or Lil Peep wasn't there, but it was, I feel like it might have been like a memorial type thing for Peep, or it was something going on that day. There was a lot of people around, and I'm around all day, kicking it, hanging out with everybody, and then at some point, I get a little break where I don't have anything to do, and I had been dying to get my fucking manicure done because occasionally I do that. I'm gonna be honest, I wish I did it more often, but from time to time I go get a manicure, get the fingernails cleaned up or whatever. And there was a place that is now closed that was a couple stores down from my store. I go in there, and I'm conscious of the fact that I'm a public figure and I'm in this public place and everything, but I had a hoodie on, so I put my hoodie up and I faced away from the door, so I'm just assuming nobody's gonna look into the salon and see me there. At one point, and it's a bunch of like Korean ladies working there doing this. At one point, I just hear Adam22, and I turn like this, and I just, boom, just get clocked in the side of the head. And then I think I got hit like one more time, like in the top of the head, like, because as soon as I got hit in the head, I like fell out of the chair, and like before I could get up, I get hit in the top of the head one more time. And then I look up, and these dudes are already out. They're already running out the door. And, I was just so confused. Because it's like, there's a lot of different ways that this could kind of make sense to me. Normally, when something like that happens, there's somebody filming. And I asked all the Korean ladies, I'm like, yo, there wasn't anyone filming, right? Because when I looked up, I only saw 2 guys. And it didn't seem like anybody was filming. They were like, nah, we didn't see anybody filming, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let me get the security tapes. They're like, oh, no, the cameras don't work. I'm like, in retrospect, I'm like, nah, like the cameras definitely did work, and you just don't want to give it to me. But
they don't want to be involved.
They don't want to be involved, right? I didn't think
out of this shit. Matter of fact, don't come back here. Don't get your nails done here anymore, motherfucker.
Right. Oh my God! I wish you could have seen how horrified these ladies were.
I bet.
How many years of doing nails have they been doing that they never had an act of violence? But then, I didn't get hurt. I had like a little bump on the side of my head, whatever. And so I went on stream that night. I went pretty much right back to normal life. And actually, I remember the weird thing about it too is that I was like looking at my phone like 5 minutes after it happened, and somebody tweeted at me and they were like, hey, Drake followed you on Instagram. And I went and checked and I'm like, wow, that's a really strange thing to happen at almost exactly the same time. But regardless, then I had no idea who did it, right? And I'm like putting lines out. I'm talking to everybody I know who's like in the streets or knows, you know, people in LA and stuff. I'm like, yo, do you know who this was? Or like, who's mad at me? Because I'm really trying to like scrape my brain, trying to think of like, who's mad at me enough that they would want that to happen? I couldn't think of anybody. And then finally, the way I figured it out is because Russ, when he put his album out or he was doing like a media tour or some shit, he was on a stream with Academics, and he's talking about the fact that he had his dudes beat up Perp, and was Perp the only one? There might have been some other people or whatever, that he had basically his goons run down on people. And he said to Academics, he said, like, yeah, that dude Adam22 got it too. And the call was fucked up. Like, you couldn't really hear Russ saying it, but then Academics texted me right away, and he's like, yo, I was interviewing Russ, and like I think the feed fucked up, so people don't really know that he said this, but he said that you got it too. And Academics knew that I had got jumped that time at the nail salon, because I only told a couple of people. I told you, I told him, I told a few of my like actual friends, but I never put it out there online or anything.
Yeah, and I never mentioned it to anybody either, so
right.
Yeah, it was pretty quiet.
And so as soon as Academics had kind of put the pieces together before I did, he's like, basically like that nail salon situation, that might have been, and I'm like, oh, it all falls together. I'm like, that was kind of that time period where we used to be trolling Russ and everything. And at first I'm thinking, you know, like, people don't know, nobody's talking about it. I could just keep this to myself and not say anything because, you know, I took a little L, but nobody saw it, nobody knows about it. I could just not say anything. And I figured, after I thought about it for like 24 hours, and I was just like, you know what, fuck this shit. I just fucking tweeted it out, you know, and he started responding right away, acting like he was, you know, in the right, basically acknowledging that this happened. And yeah, we ended up having a call about it. We ended up kind of squashing it through Bootleg Kev. But yeah, we haven't actually met or anything since
You
then.
guys got on a call and discussed this.
Yeah, and you know, it's really weird too, because Bootleg Kev is a radio DJ, and I thought that the call that I was having with Russ was on the radio. So I'm like having like a radio-friendly conversation where I'm like saying things that I think that there's thousands of other people listening to. But in reality, it was just us on the phone. Like, I didn't realize. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was pretty pissed off, I guess. But I just, when he was like, do you want to squash shit with Russ? I was like, shit, I guess all right, yeah.
Well, what was the justification? Because I guess he was saying you were exploiting young kids or something.
I mean, that's bullshit. He was mad because I was fucking talking shit about him, because we were making fun of him, because, and it was funny too, because he remembered mad tweets that I had forgotten about. Like, the day I got verified, like he pointed this out to me and I had totally forgot, but he goes, the day you got verified, you tweeted out, oh, sick, I'm verified now, so I could say fuck you at Russ and you'll see it. Like, I tweeted it the day I got verified, just, you know. I forgot about that. That was, I could kind of see how somebody would want to fuck me up for that, all right? But there was more. There was more for sure.
What else did you say about him?
I mean, in retrospect, it's so fucking hard to remember, because I don't know if I really had any sort of like real specific things I didn't like about him, aside from just thinking he was corny or whatever. So I don't even really remember anything else I said. But basically just a bunch of like you're whack type stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, he wasn't feeling it. And so he sent some of his goons to, I mean, I don't know if he told them, like, I don't know if he said, like, give him the lightest beating imaginable. Because it's like, really, that was what was so confusing about it, is like, I got the tiniest little love taps and then they were out and the video never came out. That's what didn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. You know, like, if the video comes out right away, then it makes sense. Like,
well, you also don't want to tie yourself to a crime.
But he wasn't there, and he wouldn't have had. But even if they took that video and they just sent it to WorldStar through an anonymous account, and WorldStar posted or whatever, I mean, it's going viral. You don't have to take credit for it, and he could have still done that. That's why I was so confused about it. But I mean, you know,
remember? I mean, just to cut you off for a second. Remember when those guys got, like, Tekashi was beefing with somebody, and then these guys got kind of robbed in like a building, and Tekashi was literally filming it.
Right.
Outside, and this came out in the court case.
Yeah.
They literally seized his phone, got the video. This is what I'm saying. You know, if you're going to do a crime, you kind of don't really want any film of it at all, whether you're connected to it directly or not. It's just, hey, you're trying to distance yourself away from this.
Yeah.
So, with that situation, did you consider suing him or pressing charges or anything? Because it seems like at one point, he just admitted to it publicly. He said, yeah, I did it because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about it a little bit. I even had a conversation with a lawyer at one point, but, ultimately, there wasn't really, like, even with him admitting it, it wasn't that much. There wasn't really as much to go on as it seemed, given that we didn't have a video of it happening, that there was no real injury, that before I even thought about mentioning it to a lawyer, I went on other podcasts and said that I didn't get hurt. Detailed specifically how I didn't, nothing happened to me, how I had a little tiny bump in my head, whatever. At the end of the day, I do regret, as much as I think it's a greater wrongdoing for Russ to send some random dudes to jump me outside a nail salon or inside a nail salon, I also am willing to acknowledge that I did do something wrong, because there's no reason why somebody in my position should be like relentlessly trolling another artist like that. Like, I wouldn't do that now. So I feel it's hard for me to be angry about what happened in that situation, because I was doing something that through my experience in the industry, I wouldn't do now.
Well, yeah, you saw what happened to Lil B.
Right.
Remember, he was trolling
P&B Rock and A-Boogie.
A-Boogie. And they caught him at, was it Rolling Loud? And they stomped him out.
And A-Boogie told me, like, because I'm trying to, I'm thinking that everybody knows how important to the culture Lil B is. And I start talking to A-Boogie, and I realize he got no clue. Like, when they fought him, they had no idea about how mad the internet would be at them,
It wasn't really a fight.
Right, well.
It was more of a stomping.
They beat his ass, yeah. And, you forget that, like, A-Boogie's some kid from the Bronx, and what the fuck does he hasn't been paying attention to, like, internet rap that closely for all these years. They probably just seemed like some dude with a bunch of followers who's talking shit.
I've said quite a bit about Nas being the worst beat picker of all time.
Jungle might find you.
Yeah. I might run into someone from his crew. I don't expect any interviews from Nas or...
I almost did it to Dave East the other day. I almost said, like, how you feel about Vlad's opinion about Nas with the worst beat picking or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually say it, though, because I was like, I feel like it's been discussed at length so much that I don't know.
Well, I'm also a Nas fan. It is trolling to a certain degree, but I'm also a fan, and it's like, yo, I love this guy. I love his art. I just wish he would pick better beats. And when you have this conversation with actual DJs, they all agree with me.
Right.
Like actual music people, they all agree with me as a whole. But at the end of the day, am I gonna go to a Nas concert backstage? No. Am I gonna take a picture with him? No. Even though I have pictures with him from the past before I started saying this. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have to, when you say things, you have to understand that there's going to be repercussions potentially with them, and you ride it out the way you ride it out.
Really, the weird part about it too is that when that happened, and like, I didn't even know that Russ knew who I was until he said that to academics. Like, before that, there was never any indication, that there was never one DM that was like, yo, why are you talking shit or whatever. Like, and for somebody like me, I assume that there's a lot of big rappers who know quite a bit about me, and I also assume there's probably some big rappers who don't know shit about me because they just have sort of managed to not pay attention to whatever I'm doing, and that doesn't surprise me. So to find out that Russ not only knew who I was, but had gone out of his way to send people after me was beyond bizarre realization, to be honest.
Well, you also got to look at Russ, and he kind of came up relatively quickly. Yeah. It wasn't the slow, like, 10-year grind where he finally got a hit song. He kind of came out and things moved. We interviewed him kind of early on, and he came out and started to kind of build up quickly. So you have someone who's not really a street guy, but he is human, and he has feelings just like the rest of us.
A lot of feelings.
So you suddenly build up really quickly, and you got all this money, and then you have all these people around you who want to show out. It's very tempting. It's very tempting. Like, it's almost like the Tekashi situation, where suddenly you have all this clout and all this money, and you have all these guys who are willing to do ignorant shit, and it's hard to say no, because you want to see someone you don't like get beat up and stuff like that. And I remember when I first started making money, and I have certain people around me, and I remember we got into a stupid situation that I'm not going to mention, But yeah, we got into a situation that could have escalated into something much worse. And I remember after that, I'm like, okay, no more of this. This is done. I potentially could have sent my friend to jail. I could have potentially gotten sued. Someone potentially could have gotten really hurt. Luckily, none of that happened, but it was like right there, something was about to happen because someone that I didn't like that had talked a bunch of shit about me publicly and made videos, here I am in the same room with them. And I got more muscle than they do. And, you know, it's one of those things, and you have to really have the maturity not to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and even with that situation too, it's like, I say the shit that like Rico Reckless said to me one time that I always repeat this, like, you catch me with my pants down, wipe my ass. Like, I shouldn't have been sitting there in a fucking nail salon by myself in the middle of the day, fucking half a block away from my own store. No, you know, it's like I was acting like shit was too sweet. Like, it was really never gonna happen. And then it happened one time. Luckily, I didn't really get hurt at all. I mean, I say one time, and obviously the thing with the gun dude or whatever too, but, you know, it's all lessons learned about how you move. Like, I'm way more careful with how I'm moving around and everything now, so.
Yeah. But right after that one guy came in and put the gun to your head, someone else showed up with a gun to your store?
Yeah, so it was like a couple days after that thing, and I'm interviewing Big Boy from Big Boy in the Neighborhood. And he had been meaning to do the interview for a while, and he finally did it. And anybody who knows Big Boy knows that he's like a, you know, OG LA dude. You know, he's moving around, right? He's got his crew with him and everything like that. But, you know, he's doing the interview thinking, you just got ran up on. What are the odds anything's going to happen 3 days later? It's like a Monday afternoon. And Big Boy's in there, and as we finish the interview, you know, they're taking pictures in back and blah, blah, blah. I go to the bathroom, and the bathroom is right between the front of the store and then the back where we were doing the interviews, and the bathroom is right in the middle where there's like a locked door so that nobody can get through to the podcast. I'm standing there taking a piss. I'm looking at my phone. All of a sudden, I hear yelling and shouting and pushing, and it's super obvious that there's a confrontation, but I have no idea what it is. I listen for like another 5-6 seconds. I hear what sounded like a gun being thrown against the wall, and then nothing. So I creep out of the bathroom. I look into the front. I see the fucking, like, it was a BB gun, but it looked like a real gun, like on the ground. I look up at my fucking employee, this dude, Michael Harkis, shout out Michael. And I'm just like, what the fuck happened? And he's just like, you know, you see the video, basically what happened is that this one fool who I had seen a few times on the block on Melrose, but he's just some dude who I guess had been like a sneaker reseller or some shit at one point. He walks into the store, and he got his phone like this on filming for, I don't know if it was a story or if he was just filming, and then he got the gun like this. So he's walking in like this, and you can find the video online of him walking in like this, and he points it right at my employee, Michael, and Michael just goes like this and walks to the back, and the guy's saying, he's like, bring me Adam, because Michael says, like, do you want the money, or like, and he's like, no, give me Adam, I want Adam. And like, then Michael goes like he's gonna let him in through the back door, and then Michael slips through and slams the door. This guy just takes the gun, throws it, and then just runs out. And then he posted it on his Instagram immediately. He tagged Ice Cube. That was the most mysterious one. Okay. He tagged my boy Desto Dub, who's like one of my best friends, which I don't really know why. I think he tagged Worldstar and shit, but like, you know, he posted on his Instagram like immediately, because within 10 or 15 minutes, based on what I heard, the cops had surrounded him in his car on Melrose, and they all have their guns out, and he's in the car, and he won't get out of the car. And eventually they got him to get out of the car, and they arrested him and all that. But, you know, during all this, like, Big Boy's kind of in the back of the store, sort of freaked out, like, what the fuck, you know, and like, I got my employees, like, with their shit running around, trying to find him and shit like that. And yeah, I haven't heard a lot about that. I got like one call from his public defender asking for details about it, and I had a conversation with her, and every single thing I said, because she kept asking me questions, and everything I said, she just kept going, oh dear, oh no, oh. Like the funniest reaction to it. But yeah, that was like 3 days after the first dude, and at least part of it, what he said in the video, made me think that he thought that the first video was fake, and he wanted to pull up in the store on some shit like, oh, you faked that video, I'm gonna show you the real life version of this.
With a BB gun again.
Again with a BB gun. The first gun I think was like a prop gun or a movie gun or some shit, and then the second one was a BB gun. I don't know if there were BBs in it.
You know if it was loaded.
I mean, you could take an eye out with that thing, you know?
So he got arrested and he's being charged with something. So if you get called to testify, you'll do it?
I mean, I will in the sense that, yeah, like I just really feel like, you know, there's me as, you know, a cool rap dude or whatever that wants to not testify or whatever, but then there's also me as like a business owner that really needs to take, you know, proactive steps to not have people pointing guns in my you know, 22-year-old employee's face, you know? It's like, you need to establish some kind of like rules of like how this is going to play out. And for me, it's just, that seems like pretty basic shit. Like if you come into my store with a gun, I'm not on some street shit. I'm not running a fucking crack house here. Because if I run a crack house and you pull up with a gun and you rob the guy working at the crack house, cool, I'm not going to go testify against you. I'm running a bike shop on Melrose in the middle of the center of fucking society. I mean, why would I not do it? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I showed up to your interview, when you were interviewing me, we showed up armed.
Yeah, you had a fucking Nation of Islam with you. That dude was huge.
It wasn't Nation of Islam. It was XXXTentacion. Okay. But yeah, I was like, I'm just not taking any chances.
Right.
Me and Adam are cool. I don't think Adam was going to do anything to me, but based on this craziness that I've been seeing, I'm just not going to take any chances that some bozo is going to run up in here. Because me personally, I would have no problems with someone getting shot in the head that did that to me.
No, yeah, that was definitely an issue.
Like, yo,
that guy should have died for sure.
You pull out, you have to understand that when you pull out a weapon on somebody, that at that point you're potentially signing your death warrant, real or fake. And I've been in some fucked up situations over the years, and I have no problem with a person who does that losing their life. Because this is what you sign up for when you do that.
Right.
Don't go around waving guns around. Don't go around threatening people's lives without expecting maximum retaliation.
My next spot I'm getting is going to be far away from Melrose. Like we have a temporary spot right now that's more like an office space. That's where you went, and it's all right, but it's a little bit prohibitive. You can't smoke weed in there. There's like sometimes noise from the other tenants and stuff. Our next spot that we're gonna get is definitely gonna be like, you know, high security. Like I just want everybody who's working in there to really feel like there's absolutely no chance of any bullshit happening.
Oh yeah, I mean my main studio in New York, in Manhattan, is in Midtown.
Yeah.
Like it's in a professional office building. There's security downstairs. There's cameras everywhere. Downstairs, elevator, the floor, the front door, everything. We have security whenever necessary, but if you're brave enough to do something in Midtown Manhattan, you just don't care about anything. Nothing's gonna stop you at that point.
Shout out to the Treyway fool who shot at Chief Keef, because that was that situation.
And look what happened. Everyone got caught.
Yeah. And what's funny too though is because, okay, right after that situation where the fool ran up on me or whatever, I get a DM from Chief Keef, who was basically like, which I mean, I didn't even know that he gave a fuck about me like this, but he was basically like, yo, you good? Like that video was fucked up. That shit was crazy. Like, but like Chief Keef's like right on me right away. Like, bruh, like, why did your dude not kill him? And I'm like,
that's what I was thinking.
You know, that's what probably a lot of people were thinking. But Chief Keef was like, bro, like that's where it's supposed to go down. That situation. You know,
I would fire my security if that person was not dead. Me personally, like, cause no one knows that's a fake gun. Like your client has a gun to his head. What are you doing? Like, me personally, I would expect my security to respond with lethal force.
Yeah, and I said to Keith, I said, they tried to kill us both this year. And he goes, nah, they were shooting at the sky. Like about when the fool ran up on him.
Yeah.
Because, you know, nobody really knows like what it looked like when that guy shot the gun besides Sosa. It didn't seem like he ever really felt like he was in that much danger. Because, you know, like there's a lot of people that like maybe got the balls to carry a gun, maybe get the balls to pull the trigger. To pull the trigger while it's pointed at somebody's head is very different than, you know, shooting with it angled up, and you know you're not going to hit somebody, but maybe you're still going to get credit from 6ix9ine for putting in work, you know?
Yeah. And of course, Tekashi has a video of him actually even telling the guy to do that, well, offering money to do that. So, well, Kodak Black is now in prison, sentenced to almost 4 years. Did you guys ever cross paths?
No, I got the Twitter follow while he was in prison, not this time, but like previous one, which I always thought was kind of weird. I always wondered who hit that button. But no, I always that's really like, he's pretty much my favorite, like, current rapper. Him, Thug, Youngboy, like a few others. But I mean, I'm a fucking Kodak stan to another level.
Really?
Huge Kodak fan. So for me, seeing him go away for a few years is really painful. I'd really be listening to him a lot.
I mean, I like Kodak, not as much as you do, but I think he makes good music. I think he has an interesting story to tell, very introspective. And it just seemed like there are no adults around. For him to be in prison for buying a bunch of guns and faking and saying that you're not a felon, you're in a public store doing this with video cameras around, filling out paperwork. One of those guns, I guess, was found at a crime scene of a shooting or something like that.
With one in the chamber and his fingerprints.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a decision. That's what I read in the news. So.
Yeah, and the judge basically said that everyone makes mistakes, everyone does stupid stuff, but you've been doing stupid stuff since you were 15. And the fact that he's one of the biggest artists in America and probably gets well over 100,000, maybe 150,000 a show, and he has platinum singles and albums that probably go gold or platinum, and now you're sitting in a cage for the next 3.5 years eating shitty food surrounded by a bunch of men is just like such a waste to me. It's just crazy just putting my head around that situation.
Well, I'm going to put it like this. This is how somebody explained Kodak to me one time. Because, okay, you know that song Drowning by A-Boogie? And they did a music video and Kodak wasn't in it. And I asked somebody at one point, I said, why wasn't Kodak in that music video? And I knew why, because I had heard street shit, people talking about it. And they said, it's because A-Boogie got robbed and he didn't do anything about it. Like, Kodak knew about that A-Boogie got his chain took at one point. A lot of people know about that. But he wasn't in a rush to go beat somebody up or shoot somebody or whatever. A-Boogie didn't handle it in the way that Kodak thought he should have, I guess. So Kodak didn't do that video. And I was like, why? Like, why the fuck would Kodak care that much? Like, why the fuck does it matter to him? And this person said to me, they said, Kodak, all he has is his gangsterism. That's all he cares about. It's all he's ever known. He's like, you can't even wrap your head around the extent to that matters to him. And I've always thought that was really interesting because that don't matter to me at all. It's never really, there's a code of how you should handle yourself as a man, but it's much more general when you're just like a regular guy. To me, if somebody gets robbed for their jewelry, if I found out that you got fucking hijacked last night, I would, that sucks, whatever, but I'm not gonna judge you for it, for how you handle it. And when you think about Kodak, it's like he really, when I think about that situation with him allegedly going and shooting up some other rapper's crib with a gun that he bought in his name or whatever, I just kind of think back to that conversation and I'm like, I don't know if Kodak has it in him to act in his own best interest at the expense of what he considers to be his moral code.
Well, yeah, I remember I interviewed Trey D and we talked about his jail situation, and Trey's convinced that he's not going to be in PC. He was saying everything he knows about Kodak Black and the principles that he puts out there and whatever else, he feels that he would lose all of his, quote unquote street cred by checking himself into protective custody.
So, I mean, with money like him, with money like his, either he'll go to protective custody, which I doubt, because he talked too much hardcore shit.
You don't think he's going to go to PC?
No.
Why not?
Black. Not Kodak Black.
You don't think so? This is not a big, tough man. This is a little, chubby little guy. Like,
whoop my ass. I don't give a fuck. I used to be small. When I first went to YA, I was 5'6", weighed 132 pounds. kill me, motherfucker. I'm not going to no protective custody.
Right, but you weren't worth like $10 million as well.
Oh no, shit! I probably wouldn't even worth $10,000.
Right.
But no, I'm just saying, as a person, you know, representing how he represent, you can't go to the prison and then go to protective custody and then come back talking about how bad and dangerous and big shot motherfucker that you is. No, you got to go stand by that behind the wall. You know, that's where you go get your stamp at. You know, for talking all that shit, you know, now you hear what's happening.
That he's going to be out there in the yard with everyone else. Taking a major risk, honestly. Because all it takes is one bozo who's trying to earn a strike to go stab Kodak.
And I just don't even see how I mean, Trey D, obviously, he's OG, he knows what he's talking about, but I don't feel like you have a choice whether you get to be in PC at a certain point. Do you?
Yes, you do. Yeah.
I feel like if you're famous enough, they're just not going to let you be in GP because you're going to be an issue. Like what you're saying, somebody's going to kill you.
No, I think you have a choice. I think if you say, I'm not going into PC, and I will sign the release forms or whatever else, I don't think they could force you to be in PC if you don't want to be. Boosie was in PC.
I would be in there so quick. I ain't really eager to hang out with a bunch of weirdos either, but hey, man, fuck it.
Oh yeah, listen, I don't subscribe to none of this shit.
Yeah. At
the end of the day, I'm good. Like, I'm not trying to go to jail. I'm not trying to do any crimes. I'm happy running a legitimate business. I don't have problems calling the police when a crime has occurred. I'm not thugging it out. I'm not shooting it out. I'm just running a legitimate business, and that's it. But I mean, shit, if Kodak is not showing up to a video set for really one of the biggest songs of his career, if you think about it, Drowning, if not his biggest song, definitely one of them in the top 2 or 3, because A-Boogie didn't shoot the guy that robbed his chain.
And there's other
and put himself in the same situation that Kodak is in right now.
Right. I mean, at a certain point, you got to look at everybody in the game and be like, oh, maybe this rapper ain't as hot as this rapper, but this rapper has no record and is chilling and doesn't have to deal with bullshit and moves around smart. And then you got Kodak, and Kodak is...
And let me tell you, there is no guarantee that he's going to come out of that prison sentence. He's in a very violent place with people who have nothing to lose. Certain rappers come out of prison and they pick up where they left off. Other rappers come out, like let's say Shine. They come out and it's over.
Yeah.
You know, Shine doesn't even do music anymore. He lives in Belize. He got married. He had a kid. He became a Hasidic Jew. Like he chose to do other things because the music thing just wasn't popping anymore.
But to be fair, I think Kodak has done a lot more to cement his career, whereas Shine was always kind of just an idea. He never
Shine
proved
was
himself.
pretty hot before he went in.
He was hot, but he didn't have records that were like proving that this is the dude.
No, but he had records that were reacting. Like Bad Boy, like the song Barrington Levy was a hot record. He came out sounding kind of like Biggie, and people were kind of dismissing him. And then once his album came out and the singles came out, I mean, I remember. I'm a little older than you, so
yeah,
I think I experienced it
me, yeah.
a little differently than you. People were fucking with Shine. He was with Bad Boy, who was the hottest label at the time, and this was their marquee artist, pretty much. Puffy was fucking with him. Like, he was like the second coming of Biggie. He had the same type of gruffness. And first album, I think, went gold or whatever. Like, he was setting up to have a legitimate career, and then boom, the shooting happened, 10 years in prison or 15 years or whatever, and then that's it.
But that's Shine, and Shine definitely made a mark and stuff, but I would say Kodak is by far one of the most influential rappers on the current generation. Like, I would...
I'm not going to argue with
it's
that.
like,
yeah.
He's massively important to these kids, and
yes.
It's hard for me to imagine him losing that in 3 or 4 years. Now, granted, I mean, what the fuck is 3 or 4 years in jail going to be like for Kodak when he allegedly was like off drugs and grabbed a fucking guard by the balls and squeezed so hard he had to go to the hospital?
Well, yeah, because
I mean-
think about it. 3 years could turn into 13 years very easily. In prison, those crimes that you do in prison are not considered off the books. That's a regular ass crime with a regular ass sentence to go along with it. And in fact, they don't have to chase after you to take you to court because you're right there.
But there's just so many examples too of like Kodak just sort of not being able to act in his own best interest. Like the shit he said about Nipsey and Lauren.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of like, it would have been so easy for you to not say that. You could have so easily just not commented on that and just said, R.I.P. Nip, keep it moving, don't mention his girl. This motherfucker is just saying whatever the fuck's going through his head, you know?
He trolls. I mean, he had, what did he have, like a pistol and weed in a live video with the sun right there when he was already on probation, I think, at the time.
I mean, that right there. It's like he's not capable to some extent of acting in his own best interest and making the decisions he needs to make to stay out of jail.
Yeah. And he surrounds himself with people that go along with all of his bad decisions. There are no adults around. And I remember I interviewed Boosie about this, and I said, you know, could you blame it on the people? And Boosie's like, he's the boss. Can't blame it on someone else. He's the boss. What he says goes. And I agree with you. Ultimately, it's nobody else's fault but himself. He's the one that allowed all that to happen. He's the boss.
Yeah,
right?
he called the shot. He called the
everybody works for
shot.
him.
He called the shot. They could have said, man, get off the line. He could have overpowered that. Nigga, I got this. He the boss.
No one else around him could say, no, you are not doing this. Well, I'm the one paying the bills.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing. It's too bad. Too bad. I think most people were fans of Kodak. You know, I think he was universally liked.
Yeah.
And now he's not going to do anything for the next few years. I mean, unless he has a bunch of stuff recorded. I mean, you could kind of do that, but you know, no one's done extremely well. I mean, even YNW Melly, you know, his album I think sold like 40,000 or something. And he has some of the biggest records in the country, but being in prison, not being able to do any sort of promo at all. Tekashi's album, when he got locked up, remember, it just kind of went down the drain.
Dude, there's so many examples of rappers who came out and had a wave, like a big old wave. Tay-K, 6ix9ine, Kodak, you know, like so many rappers that I was really listening to that just got took from us within the first couple of years of their career. And I mean, there's a whole bunch more that are sort of like teetering, like we don't know, like young boys on this crazy ass probation, so you don't get to see him out and doing shit so much. You know, there's just a million. Like, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, Tay-K, I believe, is the only artist in music history that had a #1 song which he never got to perform because he was locked up the whole time.
That shit's crazy.
Did you ever? Because you know, he was on a song, you know, with you technically.
Yeah.
But did you ever get to talk to him or meet him or anything?
I did like a 10-minute interview on the phone in prison. And the really unfortunate thing about that is that, well, so his management was there. His management lined up the Tay-K Block Boy song. His management lined up the phone interview because we did the phone interview roughly at the time the song came out to sort of promote it. And when we're doing, and his management said, like, we want to review the interview before we put it out. And given the situation, I said, okay, yeah, fine. They review it. They hit me back. They say, yeah, it's fine. You can put it out. Or there was one tiny little thing they wanted me to remove, but it was something that like sort of implicated one of his managers for basically harboring a fugitive, you know? So they wanted to remove something that made it clear that basically he was in communication with one of them or whatever. The interview comes out. Tay-K gets thrown in solitary or whatever like a couple of days later. Because in the interview, and I didn't even like think about it because in my head, like the impetus is off me to remove anything from the interview because the management said they were going to remove it. The management did not ask me to remove the part where he talked about having an iPad.
Oh.
And so then he gets in solitary, all kinds of whatever additional charges and shit because he had a fucking iPad and he's just in jail using the iPad. And the management, I mean, I still question, like, to what extent there were adults in the room because nobody apparently thought that they should remove the part about the iPad. I feel like I honestly would have removed it if I had really noticed. Like, it didn't really register to me that he had just said that. doing this like awkward jail phone interview, you know. But yeah, that happened, and I mean, really, that is whatever. It's all water under the bridge because realistically, he's doing however many decades in jail and has nothing to do with that. But that did happen.
Yeah, and then you get called the police by doing that.
You know, because I fucking didn't think to remove it. But really, in my head, I was not worried about that interview at all because I'm like, these motherfuckers are gonna. I thought they were gonna make us remove all kinds of shit.
Look, I've buried interviews. I've had interviews with people that I did, and then something bad legally happened to them, like before I put it out. So I would agree with their management or whoever that we're just not going to put it out.
Right. If it's putting somebody at risk,
I don't do it.
Yeah.
There's been interviews I have not put out, interviews I've taken down. We've actually gotten into it. You know, like with fans who are like, "Oh, I know this interview's out. You know, you got to put it out." It's like, nah, we're good. It's not that serious. What do you think about the whole Culture Vulture tag? You and I both get it quite a bit. Did Dame call you Culture Vulture?
No, he actually specifically said I wasn't a bunch of times.
Oh, really?
Which was nice. You know, you could call me racist plenty of times, but you know,
He thinks you're racist.
I don't know that he thinks I'm racist, but he's definitely like at least called me racist in the moment for certain things that I've said on the podcast. You know, we barely had conversations that weren't recorded, so it's not like I said something off camera that, like, you know, he's called me racist on that podcast. Like,
what did you
many
say
times.
to make Dame call you racist?
I mean, there's a bunch of them, but like one that stands out was me saying, because you know, one part for him is that he feels like I'm white, so I should be more interested in white culture musically. And that it's a little odd that I'm so into black culture. Just for me, it's just I'm interested in hip hop. But he, at one point, he's like, why do you always want to talk about rap shit, black culture? And I'm like, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really think you'd be that interested in Mumford & Sons. And he just, you're racist. I went to a Mumford & Sons show. Like, I was like, okay, fine. I thought you wouldn't like Mumford & Sons. My apologies.
I've never even heard of Mumford & Sons.
I mean, it's just like, it sounds like you're in an Irish pub.
Okay.
Roughly, you know, it's like sing along. It's like the whitest sounding music you probably ever heard.
Okay, I've never heard it.
I mean, it's the whitest thing I could think of in that
Okay.
moment. And it was just funny because, I mean, I guess Dame kind of has a point there for me because he actually is into a lot of rock music. So to him, the idea that I, you know, would sort of clown on a rock band, I get how to him that's weird. For me, there's no current rock bands I'm interested in, you know.
So what do you think about the Culture Vulture tag?
Oh, right. I don't know. It's sort of in one ear, out the other for me. Because it's like, it's all about framing. You know, if you want to look at me and you want to say, like, look at, this is a white guy who has decided to create a business in which he could extract as much value from the black community as possible. Well, you know, if you want to frame it that way, fine. I guess I could see how you might come up with that version of things. To me, the version is, I'm a person who's been interested in hip hop my entire life. I've been listening to rap music since I was like 9 years old. And now I'm 36, and I'm just, you know, I wanted to start a podcast. I didn't start an explicitly black podcast or anything. It wasn't even an explicitly hip hop podcast. I just started a podcast and just wanted to talk to people. A large percentage of the people I end up talking to are black or non-white, and that's not because I'm, you know, fetishizing black culture or anything. It's just because vast majority of the musicians I listen to are black. That's just what I'm interested in. You know, for the most part, hip hop is what I tend to do interviews about. But I interview all kinds of white comics, black comics. You know, models. I interview a lot of models. Like the porn stars and shit tend to skew white more often than not, probably. I mean, for me, it's like it's just if you want to like look at what I'm doing and frame it that way, cool. But you also have to accept that if you're gonna call me a culture vulture, that there's like 50 other people that you now have to explain that they're culture vultures, and a lot of them are not white, and they're basically doing exactly the same thing I am.
I mean, I get the same criticism. I get called culture vulture probably about 100 times a day. And one of the complaints is that, you know, because we interview a lot of criminals. It's like, why do you only interview black criminals? I said, well, we've interviewed Michael Franzese, you know, from the Colombo crime family. In fact, we have a second interview with him. You know, we've interviewed Boston George. That's only one or two people.
But not the rapper one, because there's a Boston George who raps too.
No, the real Boston George.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, we try to we try to interview as many people as we can. Most mafia guys really, like the mafia guys just don't talk and do interviews as much as the Freeway Ricky Rosses and people like that. But people are gonna paint you that no matter what you do. You could bring them proof that you've done this, and this, and this, and they'll just, doesn't matter. When did No Jumper officially launch as a YouTube channel?
That's a good question. I think it's been 4 or 5 years. I could look up the exact date of the first one if you want.
Let's look it up.
Okay. June 5th, 2015.
Okay.
So about 4 years.
4 years in.
4.5, yeah.
For someone who's looking to become the next No Jumper, who is about to launch their YouTube channel, they have a cool name, they have a logo, they have a camera, and they have a list of people they're about to interview. What would you say was the key for you to build up to the 3 million subscribers and the millions of views that you have now?
Well, I think the key really, a lot of times people ask me for advice, and I might say something like, you got to figure out what makes you special, and you got to figure out where your content is going to fit in, because there's already a DJ Vlad, there's already a No Jumper, there's a Breakfast Club, there's academics. A lot of the things to be done are clearly covered. So you got to at some point figure out, what are you going to do that's going to fit in and be something that isn't going to completely just overlap and just be, redundant, because you're going to have to stand out at some point to create your own lane. But the truth is that I really didn't have any clue what my lane was early on. I just started and I kept going and I didn't stop, which is really, when I look back at my early interviews, a lot of my early interviews have like 10,000 views and didn't make much noise at all in the beginning. And they, the people that I interviewed, their careers didn't go much further than where they were at when we did that interview. But then I did an X interview, and then I did a Peep interview, and then I had I happened to do a vlog with Pump, and then Pump blew up, and like all these different things. And it was just, I just kept hammering away at it. And the thing that I tell people to try to figure out figure out what makes you special, figure out what is going to make you stand out. I didn't have any of that at first, that really only came together because I was so committed to just making stuff, period. And that, I feel like that's important for a lot of kids, because it might seem kind of overwhelming. Like, how are you going to start a podcast that's more iconic than No Jumper or The Breakfast Club or whatever? It's like, well, you're not going to know before you start, realistically. You could have an idea. Sometimes you have a great idea and you can actually just execute that entire idea, and you know why this business is special to start. But more often than not, you start a business and then you end up pivoting a little bit because maybe the idea you started with wasn't the completed idea, And still to this day, it's like, I don't know what this might look like in 2 or 3 years, It's like, if I have some great idea for how to improve my content, maybe my content stops looking so much like it does now. And I feel like anybody out there, that's what it's all about, is just finding your identity. But you're not going to really find that identity unless you just put in the work and get that experience,
Yeah, it's consistency. We've been around for 12 years. We're going into our 12th year now. And the original idea was drop new content 365 days a year. Everyone thought that was stupid back then. Chop up our videos. Everyone thought that was stupid also. People don't want to watch those short clips. People want the full interviews. Just a lot of stuff that I thought was a good idea in the beginning that went against the grain of what everyone else thought. We just kept doing it year after year after year after year after year. And eventually, you get your big hits. You get the Soulja Boy challenge. You get, Omarion responding to, the whole Little Fizz and April situation, which became the #1 trending video on YouTube for like 2 days, which has never happened before.
That's crazy.
You just keep putting in the work. You're absolutely right. You don't really need a great game plan to begin with. You just follow. And I think a lot of it also is you interview people you genuinely want to talk to.
Right. It has to come from genuine interest,
The people you interview is very different than the people I interview. We do have overlap. We've overlapped a lot.
Shout out T.K. Kirkland.
T.K. Kirkland, BG. No, you haven't done BG Knockout.
Right, soon, I think.
Soon. Trey D, you've done.
But you do such a good job that sometimes it can be like, they mentioned you could get an interview with Sugar Free. I went and watched your interview, and I was just like, bro, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna ask after this. Like, Vlad fucking killed it. Like, I really don't know. Like, I can't think of anything to write down besides sort of reiterating all the shit that Vlad already did with him.
Thank you. I think that's a compliment.
Yeah.
I mean, when I sit down with somebody, my goal is for that to be their biggest interview of their lives. Period. You've done other interviews. I don't care if you've done radio, podcast, Joe Rogan, Sway, whoever. I'm going to destroy all these other interviews. We're going to get way more views. We're going to have asked the questions all of them were scared to ask. We're going to dig into personal issues. We're going to unearth a bunch of stuff. And this will be the greatest interview you've ever done in your life. And it's going to last until the day you die. People are going to mention it. People are going to stop you on the street. And I feel going into my 12th year that you could take any other interviewer out there, pick one person, and we'll both do that interview, and we both put it out on our platforms, and I guarantee that I'll kill those numbers. I'll kill whatever they did. That's how I feel.
But that's, I mean, I respect that as an artist. Like, you need to have that mentality if you want to every single day wake up and keep trying to do this shit. You know, it's like, you have to care that much. It's like a lot of people, they haven't been in rap that long. They don't know that much about it, but they want that fucking clout. They want that name. They want to be successful doing this. It's just, you know, you have to like really take pride in it, you know? Like that's like the main thing. You have to really want to be the best at what you're doing. And it can't be because you want to be better than other people too. It has to really, you know, that might be part of it, like, but you have to really want to make it for the sake of making it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's no knock to anyone else who does it. I don't worry about people who do other interviews with the same person, whatever media run they're on. I just feel that what I'm gonna do is going to surpass everybody else. And most times I feel that's true.
Yeah.
I'm not tooting my own horn, just look at the numbers. You know, look at an Amarian interview with VladTV, and look at an Amarian interview with everyone else.
Right.
And add the numbers up. Damn near anybody. And I think that has to be a driving force. You have to just feel like, yo, like you're really gonna approach this and try to kill it and try to just create the greatest story ever told with this person for the time that you sit down with them. And if you don't want to do that, this is probably not the job for you.
Yeah, and like when you said the thing about people thinking I'm a culture vulture, you know, I get it, because there's a lot of people I look at that are doing culture and or doing content. And a lot of them are white, and I think that dude is trash. You know, like he just sucks. He like doesn't give a fuck about what he's talking about. He's not smart. He's not insightful. He's not funny. And you know, I understand when people look at me and they say like, oh, he's a fucking culture vulture, because there's other people that I look at and I say the exact same thing. And my only goal is to do enough good content that eventually the people who hate me have to watch one because they just need to see this one interview clip. And then they actually are like, you know, actually he's all right. You know, that sort of lingers in my brain, is that if I just keep making enough good content, eventually it'll be really hard to just write off everything I've done.
They'll still write you off.
Yeah. But you could go so hard that eventually it'll be, you, I think, can do enough good work that you can turn the tide again. If there is a tide against you, I think you, through the work, can prove yourself. And I mean, I've had it happen a lot over the years, honestly, where people have come up to me and said, I really thought you were a fucking dick at first, or I thought your content sucked, or I thought you weren't sincerely into this, and now I think differently of you because I saw this one clip.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I mean, I see tweets all the time. I don't fuck with Vlad, but this John Witherspoon interview is incredible. Like,
right. And right there, you're seeing it crack open, because you might do one more interview that they like, and they might just have to just accept it. Like, all right, I guess I'm a Vlad fan now.
Well, you know, in your biggest haters, the most outspoken people really are your fans.
Right.
Like, for them to hate you, and then they'll start, like, if you ever watch these people and look at what they say about you, they'll start naming a whole bunch of shit that you've done. It's like, oh, clearly you've been watching. So
right.
It is what it is, man. You're not going to have everyone love you.
If you're a big enough fan that you really have a list in your head of every single little thing I did that pissed you off, then you must be a pretty serious fan because, like, you know, I don't listen to Joe Budden's podcast as much as I wish I did, but I do listen to it quite a good amount. Over the years, I can think of a whole bunch of different little things where I'm like, Joe acted like a fucking dick in that conversation. And I remember I even stopped listening to Joe's podcast for like 2 years at one point because he had a conversation that I found so annoying and obnoxious that I was just like, you know, do I even like this guy enough to listen to his podcast anymore? But I came back to it. And I mean, I guess that says a lot about my level of fandom that I could even have that many things in my head that have stood out to me enough that I thought twice about it, you know?
Your biggest haters are your biggest fans. The opposite of hate is antipathy. If you do not know who this person is, nor do you care,
right? That's
the opposite of hate. That's not love.
Yeah,
I mean, love and hate are kind of really, you know, very, very related to each other.
And like the essence of fame is that you're well known enough that, yeah, you have like a base of people that really like you, but then you have this much larger bubble of people who just know who you are. You know, I fucking saw like a famous comedian who walked in my gym the other day, and I'm just like, you know, I'm talking to my trainer, I'm like, that fucking guy, that's crazy, you know, blah, blah. What do I know about him? None. I just know his name. I know his name and I know what he looks like. That's it. I haven't taken the time to really process his content or whatever. And there's a shitload of people that are like that with me. They know who I am. Maybe they've seen a clip. Maybe they've seen me get robbed. Maybe they've seen one little fucking thing. But they haven't really invested themselves in my shit. And I get that. But like the fact that I can put out a video and get 1 million views is like, there's enough people paying attention that like it, that, you know, it makes up for the hate.
That's what it is. Adam22, congrats on your success, man. And just keep proving the haters wrong. Keep putting out dope content. And, you know, I think it's really dope that you really found your niche. You know, you really found the, for lack of a better word, the SoundCloud rappers early on and really attached yourself to that whole genre and managed to find and interview a lot of the future stars, like the XXXTentacions, like the Lil Peeps, like the Lil Xans, and so forth. A lot of these guys who ended up getting pretty big later on in their careers, and you kind of built out that lane, which was a lane that, you know, I was ignoring, that the radio station was ignoring, that a lot of the other established formats was ignoring. And that's like, you know, I just interviewed Grant Cardone, who's like, you know, a real estate billionaire. And, you know, he talked about that, about having competitive advantage. And, you know, he kind of pointed out with VladTV is that we do the things that the networks don't care about. We focus on these people that are relatively unknown, and we get millions of views off of them because the networks aren't even going to bother. And you kind of did the same thing. You focus on a lot of people that the networks weren't bothering with, the radio stations weren't bothering with, and the established guys like myself weren't bothering with, and you built out that niche, and then you expanded over time.
And those are the opportunities, I think, for a lot of people. Like when I think about, you know, when Chicago was blowing up, you had Elevator all of a sudden pops up doing music videos. You have Fake Short Drive pop up as a blog. You have, you know, various different people who are writers or content creators or whatever, because there was a new exciting scene going on. And that is sort of like a great way for people to sort of enter into the game, is because if you, like I always tell people that too, is like, if you want to make hip hop content and you move to LA, well, congratulations. You're officially like number 700 in the list of the most important hip hop based content creators in LA, because there's a million motherfuckers doing this. If you stay in your hometown, you know, it's like maybe people don't really give a fuck about rap in, you know, Ohio, but if you were able to be the really dope YouTube channel that's based out of Ohio, that could be a lot better than being the 700th dopest channel in fucking LA. And then maybe at some point, if you've done a really good job covering the scene in Ohio, then you can branch out and start to do bigger things.
That's how we do it. Adam22, no jumper.
My man Vlad, appreciate you.
Until next time.
Thanks, man.
Peace.